got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
It's hard to start doing a radio show when the tears have only begun to leave your eyes. Marco Marquez departing Sports Radio 810 today. Our crosstalk in the hall will never be the same. A wonderful man, a wonderful head of hair, and wonderful patience and discipline to wake up early every morning to handle both the characters and the time slot of the Border Patrol. So we mentioned it a little bit yesterday in at least bit form, but been a nice little series of moments saying bye to Marco, and hopefully it's just a see you later to Marco. But the show must go on here instead. Still no Jason Anderson, still giving the voice to the voiceless here. I am Joshua Brisco. Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass. Jason, we will imagine, is on a very tea-heavy diet over the course of the weekend, and hopefully those dulcet tones will clear on up, and we'll be able to have him back in the swing of things on Monday. But in the meantime, me and Dylan with you here for the next 4 hours. Some of our regular staples and a couple of curveballs for you today as we get you ready for Chiefs and Packers and talk about some other things around the Chiefs and the NFL. Thursday Night Football last night was a blast. But we'll do our usual with Lee Sterling at 10:45 when he'll sit down with Todd Lebo to get you ready for the weekend of sports betting. Then Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest will be joining us in studio at 11. Then we'll talk to Kendall Gammon. He's with us every week at noon on Fridays. We'll catch up with him and see how his perhaps his holiday weekend went, what he's expecting from the Packers. And then at 1 o'clock, no Mick Schaefer today, but Ryan Tracy of RGR Football and many other places, Locked On Chiefs and across all of Chiefs media. Ryan Tracy will join us at 1 o'clock to dig into the nitty-gritty of where exactly the Chiefs and the Packers line up, and we'll get our predictions and then end the show with the cuts. Jason not being here cannot stop the cuts. In fact, I think we've got an idea for some ways. Maybe we shake it up a little bit, get through some of the archival footage that have been living in the cuts for a while now. We'll clean out the gutters of the cuts later on to wrap things up here. That's the plan for the next 4 hours. And I just have to ask a question that I imagine most people know. It's sort of a rhetorical question, but it's one that really, truly demands an actual answer and actual evaluation. Do you understand how absolutely god-awful you have to be for ESPN to take Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce out of the Monday Night Football window? It's actually shocking, and it seemed relatively unlikely. The news came out. You may think, well, Josh, didn't this happen like midday yesterday? It did. Adam Schefter's tweet came out at 1:59 p.m. Central Time. So I will walk you through a couple of ways that I am viewing this before we get into Chiefs, Packers, and everything else. But the Chiefs have the best quarterback in football, and internationally, the new team of the world, America's team, Pasha, the world's team, the Kansas City Chiefs. They are taking the best player in football and the greatest tight end of all time, who happens to be in a relationship with the most famous woman in the world right now. They are taking them out of prime time. Meanwhile, on Thursday Night Football last night, they had to advertise Patriots Steelers with a photo of TJ Watt and a photo of the Patriots' most impactful player, Bill Belichick. Now, look, I mean, you weren't getting quarterbacks in either of those little promo windows. And if you're going to go ahead and do one head coach and one defensive player, you may as well just make it be Belichick versus Tomlin. This is my note. Hey, Amazon, I'm willing to help for, a low fee of, $1 million per hour. It's, money that you literally would not notice. Jeff Bezos, call me, whatever. We'll figure it out. But what you could have done there is a whole lead up of two of the greatest coaches in the game next Thursday night, only on Prime. Belichick, Tomlin, Prime Vision. You could have done that. But instead it was even more obvious what they were doing, which is just hiding the fact that, quick, name a Patriot. Mac Jones. Name a Patriot who will definitely for sure be playing football on Thursday, December 7th. Go ahead. Rob Gronkowski is not there anymore. It's actually shocking. It really is, I think, because of the quarterback situation and because even a team like the Bengals, who are obviously now without their quarterback the rest of the year, the Bengals' star offensive players still. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are still there, and you still know a little bit about their defense. I think the New England Patriots may have the most anonymous roster in football. And honestly, it might not be close. Like Juju Smith-Schuster, decent-sized name, not relevant in New England. Is Devontae Parker catching passes? He's on the roster. Oh, yeah, they signed Hunter Henry. Mike Gesicki's a Patriot? Well, I guess you could go to the, offensive line like Trent Brown. I don't know that Zeke carries that same kind of juice in a promo in 2023. So all of that, with the Patriots having a truly anonymous roster and a terrible football team and a TBD quarterback situation that's just rearranging deck chairs. The difference between Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones is that we haven't gotten to watch Bailey Zappi play very much this year and that he wasn't a first-round draft pick. They can do whatever. I don't know if Bill Belichick is going to go ahead and lead the tank here, get them Drake May, and then rebuild the dynasty, or if they're all going to look around and say, hey, this isn't working for anybody, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to hard reset this sucker. Either way, it doesn't make for a very good primetime matchup. Amazon showed you that last night by accident by saying, here you go, Bill Belichick versus TJ Watt. And again, I think there's a reasonable case to be made that both of those head coaches are way more famous than anyone on their roster. But TJ Watt, excellent, of course. So that's fine. But that's the type of ineptitude that it takes to offset the fact that, remember a few weeks ago, and by the way, this is always how this was going to go, where eventually the fire burns down a little bit, and not every single segment of every single sports talk show is about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. For those of you who were concerned that you'd never get football back ever again, it's okay. She's on tour again. The Chiefs are just playing games. It's all fine. But she was there for Chiefs Jets with a star-studded cast of characters in the booth. Chiefs Jets was setting viewership records. Oh man, the NFL, look at the international footprint they're getting here. She sings Karma's a Guy on the Chiefs in South America, and international ticket searches for Chiefs tickets go up. Oh man, what gravity. What an incredible thing for the NFL. The league will never be the same. And now here we are in the first week of December, and the NFL went, yeah, that was very fun. But I don't know that the Swifties need to see Bailey Zappi. And this is ESPN, and this is the first year, it's the first ever, I believe, Monday Night Football Flex. This was built in this year because, man, remember last year, there was just some really bad primetime football. There's been some really bad primetime football this year, last night notwithstanding. And they only had this certain window in the very back stretch of the season that they could actually flex games in and out of. But it is so evident to ESPN, the entertainment sports programming network. Entertainment's the first letter there, which people often forget, I think. Just sort of philosophically, I think it's generally true how this industry works. That's not me complaining. I'm just part of it. But this entertainment network that thought they saw the golden goose of, all right, Swifties and NFL fans collide and welcome to the biggest fandom in the world. That has all been minimized because of how unimaginably terrible the New England Patriots have been. The team makes it even more noteworthy to me. If this was like Chiefs Titans and it was looking like it was going in the wrong direction, this isn't going to have any playoff implications for one of these teams, and the other team is so much better that it might not be fun at all. I'd understand. The Chiefs are going to be coming off their game against the Bills. Some weird stuff could happen there. I'm still surprised the game got flexed out. But you know what? If it was Chiefs-Bengals, and you go, hey, listen, this was Monday Night Football primetime perfection. Now it's not Joe Burrow, and the Bengals have, changed their stripes. You'd understand that. But Mac Jones didn't get hurt. Mac Jones has just been Mac Jones. The Patriots didn't lose Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick just hasn't brought them anywhere near competence this season, certainly, and really go back to Brady leaving and all of the issues they've had since then. But 2-9 was not on my bingo card for the Patriots would set, and having the Patriots be such an albatross that the Chiefs are no longer primetime material in the eyes of ESPN is genuinely shocking. The other thing is that Eagles-Seahawks is now flexed into that spot, and that was before the game last night. And if the Seahawks wear those uniforms and play like that, they can be in primetime all the time. That's fine with me. A very fun game with good quarterback play and a lot of chaos and lots of laundry. Not just the jerseys, but the flags. But now Eagles-Seahawks gets moved to Monday in Seattle, as opposed to the Chiefs going to New England. And there is a human cost of this, and this I'm basically starting here just because I need to make sure my mom knows I read her texts. People make plans for these things, and the real wrinkle of Monday Night Football being flexible is that it's literally a different day. And the first thing I saw when there were like rumors that this might happen, and then we'll talk to Matt Derrick about this because he had some note of an NFL official saying somewhere that it seems unlikely that they'd flex that game out. We'll talk to Matt in 30 minutes or so. But I saw Eagles fans. It was the only thing I saw in the replies to the tweet. They were saying, no, I've got travel plans. I've already booked my trip. Like, are you going to refund airline tickets? Probably not. Maybe I can't go if I have to leave a day earlier. Maybe it's going to be cost prohibitive to change a flight. Maybe I've got hotel arrangements that are not going to be flexible. There is a human cost to it that I thought would keep it from being a luxury flex opportunity, where it would just be kind of like willy-nilly about it. You move a Sunday night game to the afternoon, and with some faint exception, I would imagine most of the time people are still getting there to the game if they're traveling on the road for it. My mom has now just taken the NFL's rage because they live in Florida. They're out of market, and it's not a primetime game anymore. We were talking about that when I was down there last week, and we were watching the Raiders game, and it was all kind of a pain to figure out what's the way we're going to do this, viewership-wise. But we went through the schedule like, all these Chiefs primetime games, you probably don't need to like pay for Sunday ticket here because you're only going to have a couple of games that might not be in the market. Most of these are going to be national games, and a lot of them are primetime. Even changing that is kind of annoying. And so if that's a frustration, I get it. But the actual like travel plan situation, what if you thought, you know what? We'll make this a trip to check off some of the more storied venues in football. Maybe you're going to Lambeau this weekend, and you wanted to go to Foxborough 2 weeks later, or just the Foxborough trip. I imagine there are Chiefs fans listening right now who thought, yeah, I had tickets for Monday Night Football. I was going to, take off Monday and Tuesday and make that little round trip, and now you have to reschedule things. It is frustrating for people who actually make plans on those things. I am not frustrated about it because we'll now do a post-game show that ends at like 6 something instead of a post-game show that ends in the morning. So like that's cool. This is not my gripe. It's fine with me personally. But I understand why it would be frustrating. And more importantly, I think it's absolutely hilarious that this is where the Patriots have sent you. The team it's so perfect. The team that got in the way of Mahomes going to a Super Bowl and probably winning a Super Bowl in his first year as a starter. The team that last vanquished you in an AFC Championship game and all of the Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes storylines. All of those battles that are going to be had for decades to come and GOAT debates. The infuriating dynasty of cheaters and the most annoying organization in football with a coach that always dresses like a slob and the quarterback who just wins all the time. Like all of the venom that got built up over the reign of the Patriots dynasty that made them the villains in such a beautiful way that the NFL feasted on for so long. It's better to have a villain, and it's why I don't mind if the Chiefs end up in that spot. We can all figure out how to embrace that. But all of that now has come full circle. That in December 2023, the biggest show on turf has been headquartered in Kansas City, Missouri. And ESPN said, we would love to have you guys there again on Monday Night Football. Twice in just a few weeks, obviously. I mean, more than a few weeks by that point, but as we're talking about it now. Yeah, 4 weeks apart? Eagles on Monday, Raiders, Packers, Bills, Patriots. Yeah, it would come in 2 Monday night games in 5 weeks for ESPN. Oh, we'd love to double dip there. We'd love to have the Chiefs again. That's what we were really hoping for. We got the schedule figured out early on. Oh, we're getting multiple Chiefs Monday night games. But do you want to watch Bailey Zappi throw passes to maybe Juju Smith-Schuster? Do you want to watch Bill Belichick just put 6 defenders on Travis Kelce for an entire game? Are you ready for the Sky Moore game just because he will never be covered and will just have 200 yards of absolutely uncovered yak? Are you ready for the Isaiah Pacheco game on Monday Night Football when the Chiefs win this thing 17-2? I don't know how they got a safety either. It's shocking. Blocked punt. It's very funny. It's a very funny snapshot of the life cycle of the National Football League. And I understand why anyone who is traveling and or my mom is pissed about it. I get it. It makes sense. But man, also full circle. If you are frustrated by it, take some solace in the fact that for years the Chiefs were the Washington Generals to the Patriots Globetrotters. And now ESPN just said, no, it's not worth watching Mahomes and Kelce, not if we have to watch the 2023 New England Patriots. It's really amazing. Also, we cannot let them get a good quarterback in this year's draft. It is unacceptable. We as a society must keep that from happening. Let's look at the Patriots schedule real quick, and then we'll take a break. How worried should we be about them getting Drake May? They're not going to catch the Panthers, and by Panthers I mean transitive property, the Bears. It's the Panthers' pick, but the Bears are going to have it. Oof.
Well, the Panthers wouldn't need a quarterback anyway, so.
Oof. Oof. Certainly they wouldn't need a quarterback. I mean, they just got one at 1-1. Certainly things are going well. Certainly their head coach they also just hired is probably on a good track and certainly still employed. Nope. Sorry. This is a good bit. I was out of town for a week, so anything that happened when I was gone comes back as breaking news.
Frank Reich has been fired.
Whoa, and Marco's leaving. What?
Did you hear that Frank Reich is also the first coach in NFL history to be fired in consecutive seasons since the merger?
Huh.
Right?
I did not know that.
That's more of a David Tepper stat,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Yes, it is. That is fascinating. I'd never considered that, but I've never considered it because it's never happened.
If I was David Tepper, I would have like a mantle like on just the corner of my desk. You see that? You see that record? I love my record over here.
I love my record.
For any prospective coach for his Monday morning meeting.
I think it's maybe too macabre to do like, like antlers mounted on the wall. But what you could do...
I knew where you were going right when you said macabre.
What you could do is just do like mannequin heads and then just whatever the piece of headwear. Frank Reich is a full hat guy, right? It's not like a Doug Peterson visor situation. I guess Matt Rule wasn't really wearing hats.
He's more of an analogy guy.
Maybe you have to hang up his... Wasn't he like a short sleeve windbreaker, one of those kind of looks? I guess Andy Reid is too, but... There is certainly some collection of pelts on the wall for David Tepper. I bet that happened pre-football also. I bet anytime he fired somebody anywhere else in business, he was absolutely like taking an article of their clothing for his collection.
In reality, there is a story where he was fired by a guy and then he became his higher up, and I think he bought his house and just tore it down when he was selling it. This is a real story. Let me look it up. Hang on.
No, that's great. Let's look it up. We'll come back. I would like to hear the rest of that story. Here's your path to keep the Patriots from getting Drake May. Chargers, at Steelers. There's your Thursday night barn burner. Chiefs, Broncos, Bills. And then week 18, the 17th game of the season. The New York Jets in Foxborough. That game might be Aaron Rodgers. It might be Tim Boyle. But it will be for a very high draft pick for the Patriots.
And I already found it. Banker celebrates creating his own $20 billion company by buying and tearing down the $43 million Hamptons mansion of his former Goldman Sachs boss who refused to promote him.
That is incredible. I wish that someday I will be petty enough to do something like that. But really, I already am petty enough to do that. So really, I just wish that someday I'll be rich enough to do something like that. All right, we'll have Todd Lebo chat with Lee Sterling here in just a little bit, but I have found more of this story about David Tepper. And it really, there is something delicious about this, and there's something just absolutely disgustingly reprehensible about it. And I'm going to try to embrace both sides. I'm reading the story from September 2015 on The Independent. As Dylan gave us the short version of the story, the details and the writing in this story really add another element to it. Again, this is the current owner of the Carolina Panthers, who, off the top of my head, I believe got pretty deep into the building of a new training facility, and then some of the tax money just wasn't going to come, so they just left. That
is correct. He, in another petty move, when the city decided not to honor their agreement on the tax paying, he decided that it was worth it to scrap the entire project, which he had already dumped a bunch of money into, and pick a new city, basically, for the practice facility.
They have withdrawn a bankruptcy settlement on that. I was going to contractor owed money. Let's see here. Settles dispute under investigation. Faces probe for scrapped NFL facility. Investigating use of public money. Panthers scrap unfinished $800 million practice facility after Tepper's real estate company goes belly up.
Which I think that was on purpose. I feel like that was the
bankruptcy was part of it, right? I think that sounds about right. Here we go. Here's what I was looking for. Tepper had already sunk $175 million into the proposed facility. So that's some money recently. He's just sort of flushed. Did he hire Matt Rule? Matt Rule was there when he bought the team. Is that right? Or was he the first hire he made? The Matt Rule era did not go as planned. It's so funny. He was like, "Yeah, I took blame for this. This is a story published on January 31st, 2023. This was this year." Tepper said the CEO type coach wasn't the right fit for the team. Rule signed a 7-year contract to be the Panthers coach. So that happens. He says, no, we got to change some things. Bring me Frank Reich. Frank Reich is employed for months, ultimately. Less than a year. Months. And David Tepper, from all we can tell, personally traded up and drafted Bryce Young.
Well, he was fine with either one. If you didn't see that press conference where he was very clear about how much Bryce Young is liked in that building.
It's a great point, Dylan.
There may be sarcasm in that.
It is a great point. David Tepper has since tried to convince some people that what I said isn't what happened.
That he is on both sides of the fence somehow. As the owner, and the buck also stops there.
He loves the MVP caliber rookie who went after their draft pick.
With a first-year head coach as well.
And a first-year offensive coordinator, I think,
Correct,
since we're there.
Yes, also.
And he loves the guy that they traded up for and sent their best offensive player and the 2024 number 1 overall pick ultimately all to go get. That's a great point, Dylan. David Tepper is playing both sides when he has been one side. Speaking of sides, here's how this independent story opens up. From 2015. I'm going to make this about the Chiefs in a second, too. Your mind's going to be blown. Here's how the story begins. Quote, never get on the wrong side of a banker. And man, maybe this story went around when he bought the team. But if you're a Panthers fan, go ahead and declare fan free agency, and other teams will take you. We will find a way to make this healthy for you. I will not hold judgment. There's some, look, stick with your teams in the down times, 100%, absolutely. It makes the victories that much sweeter. But when this guy's the owner of your team and you're looking around realizing who you're a fan of now, you don't have to support him anymore. It's okay. Find another rooting interest. We will figure it out together. The story goes on. A U.S. banker passed over for promotion has bought his former boss's holiday home and razed it to the ground in order to build a new property, double the original size in its place. David Tepper paid $43.5 million for the summer home of ex-boss John Corzine in 2010. The hedge fund manager decided to tear down the 6,165-foot home in Sagaponack in the Hamptons, claiming he was unable to see the sunset from every room in the home's original format.
I never heard that part. That's amazing.
Dylan was about to take a sip, and I saw him put his cup down just to mouth the words, "Oh my God." His old boss built this house, and he bought it and flattened that sucker because he had to walk from one room to the other to see the sunset. Now completed, the 11,268 square foot home boasts a huge swimming pool, tennis court, 3-car garage, 2 rooftop terraces, and a large dining room. Mr. Tepper was reportedly passed over by Mr. Corzine, then CEO of Goldman Sachs, for promotion to partner, and went on to found Appaloosa Management. Since then, Mr. Tepper has become one of America's wealthiest hedge fund managers with an estimated $10.4 billion in 2015, according to Forbes. Speaking on his success, his decision to buy his former boss's home, he told the New York Magazine in 2010, quote, "You could say there was a little justice in the world." I'm not going to say that David Tepper is on a Jim Irsay track, but the idea that you, as one of the wealthiest dudes in America, bought your former boss's old house, plowed that thing to dust, built twice as big a home on top of that lot, and said, "Ah, yes, justice."
I can finally see the ocean.
The sunset.
That's right, my bad.
From every room in the house.
I apologize to David Tepper. Please, God, do not find me or try and take any justice about that statement.
Don't you hate it when not every window you look out is giving you an absolute perfect view of all of the world's most overwhelming beauty? Here's the Chiefs' thought. Look, there's when you have kids in a hierarchy end up inheriting a team, it can get kind of wonky. And the entire sort of group after Lamar Hunt could have gotten messy. And man, whatever the Chiefs have done to this point, and certainly Clark Hunt kind of swinging and whiffing a little bit on Scott Pioli and the lessons learned there, and both Clark Hunt and Scott Pioli have talked about the lessons they learned out of that era. Clark Hunt tried doing it one way, looked around and said, "Oh wait, hold on, they just fired Andy Reid? Let me hop on a plane to make sure this meeting happens." And since then, look around. There are no half-finished training facilities, and as far as I know, no plowed down houses of his enemies. Although if he has ever done that, we will give him the phone line, and I would love to talk about it. If anyone's ever bought a house of an enemy, bulldozed it, and built a bigger house on top, I'd be willing to talk about it. But I would not be willing to talk about the Carolina Panthers.
4-1 to get started. Welcome back into the zone on this Red Friday. Let's get talking some football here with Paramount Sports' Lee Sterling. Lee, we've moved away past Locktober. November's to remember. It's double down December now at Paramount Sports. What's the special for us?
All right, so we won again last week, 10th out of 14th winning week, so we're going to just try to stay on this roll. It's been an incredible year, our 30th anniversary. So last month, if you wanted to join for the entire month and everyone's happy, we had it for $397 for November. You know what? It's normally $497. Last year we did it for $397. I want to make it so there is no excuse everyone can't come aboard. $297. You're going to get every game from today all the way through December 31st. So you're going to get championship week, college football. Going to get all the bowl games that are played through December 31st. That's like 38, 39, 40 of them. And then NFL. We've only had 2 losing Sundays this year. So double down December. Everything we've got on our executive phone service, cheapest price ever. So buy for yourself if you hear this and you have a loved one or a friend. Nice gift to give during the holidays. You don't know what to give someone. If you know they're listening to the segment or followed along and maybe been with us or jumped off for some reason, want to jump back on. So double down December. Everything through December 31st. Cheapest price ever, $297. ParamountSports.com.
So much sports happening this month. It's a great time to get involved with Paramount Sports. Okay, let's talk about some games. We have Championship Saturday Coming up tomorrow, a lot of these games right here on Sports Radio 810. Let's start with the ACC game. Florida State has to win, obviously. They may win and still not get invited to the college football playoff because everyone's mad at them because their quarterback's out. Louisville blew a game last week against Kentucky. What has Louisville got for Florida State here?
It's crazy as Louisville turned it over 3 times. But the last 2 times they turned it over 3 times. The next game, they beat Notre Dame handily, 33-20, and shut out Duke 23-0. So I like the way that they've been able to take care of their business after a poor effort. Florida State, if they had Jordan Travis, I mean, I'll lay 7-8 points in this game. But without him, they only had 224 total yards last week. They were dominated for 3 quarters. How they were even still in the game is crazy. But if you look at the score, it was not indicative of how close the game was here. I think Louisville's got better playmakers here and can do some damage on this FSU defense here. I like Louisville. Wrong team favorite, 30-24.
Yeah, Florida had played more discipline. They would have won that game, but they're not very disciplined. That's why Florida's not going to a bowl game this year, I guess. Right. That's kind of how that goes. All right, Georgia-Alabama. This is obviously a huge game. Alabama can make an argument to make the playoff as a one-loss team if they beat Georgia, the best team in the land. I think Georgia's really powerful and really good, but I don't ever put anything past Alabama. Georgia's a 5-point favorite. Is that too many against Alabama?
So, in the games last week that each team played, everyone's obviously still talking about the Alabama game because they converted a 4th and 31 with a shocking touchdown where Auburn only rushed 3 players. 10th anniversary, 10 years it's been since Alabama had the kick field goal return for a touchdown against them. So it's crazy how things turn around here. But no one's talking about Georgia. They struggled against Georgia Tech to win 31-23, only win by 8 points here. I think Georgia's defense is good, but they've allowed 4.9 yards per carry the last 2 weeks against Tennessee and also Georgia Tech. And Alabama during that time has averaged 5.9 yards per carry in the last 4 games here. I think the offensive lines and defensive lines about even here. I think Jalen Milroe's ability as a dual-threat quarterback to extend plays is a big plus here. And how about this touchdown percentage in the red zone? Alabama's offense, 19th. Georgia's defense, just 67th. I know Georgia's won 29 straight games, but Bama's won 7 of the last 8 in the series, and Bama has all the motivation here. Georgia should still be in if they lose here. I think the wrong team's favored. Again, I like Alabama outright, 27-23.
Start the chaos, right? Let's start the chaos. All right, so Texas will have already played their game by then. They're the first one out of the chute. You can hear both of those games right here on Sports Radio 810 tomorrow. Texas is a 14-point favorite against Oklahoma State, who I think Oklahoma State is about the 5th best team in the Big 12, but they have managed to win games. I don't think they've got a prayer to beat Texas, but that's not what we're talking about here. 14 points for Texas.
So Oklahoma State might be the 5th best team, but talent-wise, I think they're like the 8th or 9th or 10th best team. They just don't have a whole lot of talent here. Great coaching job, but look at the last 2 games. They struggled. They trailed for most of the game against Houston. In fact, trailed at one point by 2 touchdowns. Then they had to go to 2 overtimes to beat BYU. This might be the worst BYU team in the last 30 or 40 years. So give them credit. They've just battled, but they're just not talented enough here. I think Texas has figured it out here. Texas is scary good when they put it all together. They can smell the finish line. I like Texas 41-13.
Yeah, I think you're right there for sure. All right, let's talk some National Football League games. Houston lost last week at home against Jacksonville. Very good game, thrilling right down to the wire, but they've still got a lot of hope this season. Yeah. And they've got Denver coming in, who's all of a sudden hot. What do you like here?
Houston has been able to just get by. I mean, I asked a friend of mine, and he is we're talking about a big Houston fan. So I said to him, tell me what you like about your Houston team. And you know what he said to me? He said, we have a really good quarterback, and we have a receiver, Nico Collins, who's red hot. I don't think C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins are enough here. This Denver team, how about this? 15 takeaways the last 5 games here. So they hit hard. They're getting takeaways. Russell Wilson, 20 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. They're running the football here. I like Denver. I think they win the game outright here, 23-20.
A lot of Chiefs fans heading up to Green Bay for Sunday Night Football. They don't get to go to Lambeau very often, so this is a destination for Chiefs fans to go watch a game. Chiefs are a 6-point favorite here on the road on Sunday Night Football against a team that's suddenly much better, and the Chiefs had a get-well game last week. They actually scored points in the second half. Can they go up here and win in Lambeau and win by enough?
Pretender or contender? We're going to find out here with Green Bay sitting at 5-6 off back-to-back wins here against the Chargers and the Lions. Jordan Love, his best 2 games of his career. He's averaging 293 passing yards the last 3 games, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Chiefs, 290 yards here through the air here, lost to dropped passes this year. Obviously, Rice had a big game last week, but their defense still, they're the difference here, except for that long touchdown run, giving up just opponents 24 points or less in each of the last 10 games. I think this line's a little too high. I think Kansas City wins again, another close one, 23 or 24-20. I'll take the 6.5 points in Green Bay.
Yeah, win will be enough for most Chiefs fans, that's for sure. All right, you've got a free play for us involving a team that is still smarting from their Thanksgiving loss to those Packers, the Lions and Saints, and you got specials for us.
Yeah, they want to get – this is a big game, Detroit, New Orleans. First 5 callers get it for free. Just call 800-400-9741. First 5 callers will give them Detroit and New Orleans on me. And if you want to hop on board, this is the best time of year. We're having another incredible year. We've won 10 out of 14 weeks, only 2 losing weeks on Sunday in the NFL. We call it Double Down December. Everything through December 31st in football, college, and the NFL. All the bowl games, $297. How do you get it? Just one place, ParamountSports.com.
Double Down December is underway with Lee Sterling, and The Zone is underway. Much more coming up next on a Red Friday on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
It's a Friday, a Red Friday, a Jason-less Red Friday. That man and his voice, like he needs it to be radio. I know. So needy. I gotta talk to do the show. Fair enough. I'm Joshua Brisco, Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass, and most importantly, Matt Derrick with us as usual on a Friday at 11. He's always brought to you by Cap One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Cap One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. Matt, I appreciate you lending another hour of your life to be here with us again today.
It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you.
A great liar amongst many other things, like being a great reporter. Usually those things don't go hand in hand, but for you, they must. Before we get into actual things that either have happened or will be happening, we talked to you early last week because of Thanksgiving, and I'm wondering how your holiday weekend went, and if you have any. You've got some picky food takes that we've discussed over the years. Was there like a flaming hot Thanksgiving take that I'm not aware of from your past?
I don't know if there's anything flaming hot.
Okay.
We had a catered Thanksgiving this year from a local eatery.
That sounds nice.
So that, it put a little bit less strain on everybody from the cooking standpoint.
Smart.
I ended up still making a dessert that fell apart, so I turned it into a different kind of dessert that tasted fine, but was not picture worthy. It did not get documented.
We have found the rabbit trail to go down, though. What was plan A for the dessert?
Well, it was.
I don't want to know plan B. I want to see if Dylan and I can guess. I want to guess what it turned into.
What it turned into.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want plan A.
What was plan A for the dessert?
A was going to be my take on the Charlotte Royale, which
I'm going to Google that real quick.
Which was I stole the idea from the Great British Bake Off baking show, whichever version you watch.
Okay. Oh, how did you? Okay. All right. I'm in.
But it's my version because I don't like fruit or any of that nonsense.
Sure.
So I make a chocolate Swiss roll. So it's a chocolate cake, rolled with homemade whipped cream filling.
Yeah.
And then it's a peanut butter mousse.
Oh!
And so you take that and you encase the dome of peanut butter mousse inside a dome of these Swiss rolls.
Yeah.
What I have never done, and I was going to try this year until my cake fell apart. There was just too much cracking in the rolling, and I know what I did wrong. In past years, I did go ahead and wrap it in a tea towel rather than parchment paper. And I was warned that sometimes it sticks more with parchment paper, but I thought, hey, the great thing here is that and that's not even, I haven't even seen, I don't think I've seen, is that, because that looks like almost like
I was flipping one around to show Dylan there. This is some sort of chocolate Swiss roll. Does this seem about what you were shooting for?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And the ones that they made on the British Bake Off was, I think it was the angel food cake Swiss roll, and then it had like a strawberry.
Here's another
mousse.
just Charlotte Royale of some sort here.
And see,
the
there's
dome
nothing
thing.
in there that I like. So I was like, okay, wait a minute. When I think of Swiss roll, I think of like the little Swiss rolls you get in the packages.
Yeah, you are
and
singing
those
to
are
me right now.
Chocolate cake and whipped cream and like Cool Whip kind of a thing. But this was heavy cream that you turned into your own whipped cream. So, it was serious. So, but the cake cracked. Next time, I'm definitely using the tea towels because even though it's more cleanup and it's messier, the cake doesn't stick. So
it sounds like an amazing flavor palette you've gone for.
If you like chocolate and peanut butter, you like cream cheese, you like whipped cream.
Yeah, those are like
vanilla.
4 or 5 of my favorite things right there. I
Oh,
think. Yeah. This is a different conversation we can have at some point, which is like all-time flavor pairings. I think it'd be really hard for me to go anything other than chocolate peanut butter at 1-1.
Oh yeah.
I definitely have some some spicy takes, not literally in this case, but I know that chocolate and mint is controversial. That's very high on my board, but I think I might be able to wait until round 2 or 3 to get chocolate mint, depending on the environment.
Mint in anything is a poor pairing.
Yeah,
it's
and
like, to me, that's like toothpaste in anything. Is
Yeah.
what you're basically talking about.
And I get it, and I've heard that many times. And if I had a York patty in front of me right now, I would eat it like the Cookie Monster. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It would just be a mess. I love chocolate mint things. This looks amazing. I have a guess for what you turned it into. Dylan, Dylan is now on the other side of the room. Sorry for timing this out this way, Dylan. Do you have a guess for what Matt did to turn this into a different form of dessert? I feel really good about my guess.
Are you thinking of bread of some sort? That's kind of where I'm going. Is thinking it turned into a swirled bread almost. Maybe?
Okay, or Marco, come here. Come on, Marco can come in. It's okay. You can come in. You can say bye to Matt. It's fine. Marco's here. We've go ahead and turn this. This is beautiful.
I hope the Twitch audience got that.
They got a little bit of a great hug. You can turn Marco's mic on over here.
Because I have spent.
Is it going to be weird for this to be the last show you appear on if you do talk into that microphone?
Actually, I have a hit on 92.3 ESPN Wichita.
Great.
Okay, there you go. That's the way to go
53 minutes. That is.
That's the way to go
Dennis.
out. Yeah.
I'm only missing in my appearance on 580 in Topeka. That's about it.
We can. I think Matt knows those guys, right?
That's right.
I think we can probably coordinate that. Matt made a beautiful dessert for Thanksgiving, and we're trying to figure out what it devolved into. The Royale.
Yeah, he's Marco. See, Marco, I mean, for the last year and a half, I've started every Wednesday morning with Marco being the first person I talk to.
Oh,
yes.
See, so
if we
this
could only
has been
be
special to me.
If we could all be so lucky.
And Marco is just as nice in real life as he comes across on the radio.
I think he's nicer in real life than he comes across on the
Probably.
radio. I don't want to blow up your spot, but I think Marco is nicer in real life.
Well,
And he's nice on the radio, too.
When you get guests like Matt Derrick, it's the kindness just. It's just,
What a guy.
It flows through.
It's a really wholesome duo
And,
here.
guy.
and honestly, I mean, this is where it's going to really hurt, and we have to stay in touch and everything because I talk more Star Wars with
Yes.
you than almost anybody. So, and especially the Disney shows. So,
We need to get you some Star Wars people out there. Start tweeting at Matt Derrick. Damn it.
Well, I don't like that you just tried to shuffle that off to other people to now take up your responsibility.
Well, no, that too. We need more. We need more. The Star Wars community is strong, but they keep it quiet a little bit, and so it just we need more Star Wars. We need more Star Wars on the Border Patrol.
Oh,
that is true.
Or you guys could just start a Star Wars podcast.
I would not be opposed to this.
You would teach me a lot of things. I feel like. I look to you for the insight and the deeper meaning.
But see, you would bring the animated angle to it, which I sorely lack in because I am not as proficient in the animated shows. But we've really bonded over the live action series.
Yes. Have you watched Ahsoka yet?
Sadly, I have not.
That's all right. It's in season. You're in season. You're a busy man.
That's what's been the problem.
Okay, so you guys could do like a binge show where you just pick a time that you just binge through the whole thing and then recap it. Maybe not as the show's happening live because Matt's very busy and I don't know what Marco's going to do.
I do have time for a rewatch of all.
I don't know what it's going to be, but I can't imagine it will be more intrusive on your schedule than starting your day at like 4 a.m. every weekday.
Well, I'll have plenty of time now to stay up and watch this NBA in-season tournament. The Los Angeles Lakers are the number 1 seed. With a very familiar foe in the first round. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Does that mean? Are they playing the Suns?
That's what I walked in on, right? You guys were talking about the number 1 seed Los
Yes.
Angeles Lakers going up against the 4 seed Phoenix Suns
in
the play-in tournament.
We were about to fill out our brackets for the NBA in-season tournament, which I guess is still going on. I have not been up to speed with much of the basketball so far, but I'm really glad that you have been.
I watched the first. I've only seen chunks of the tournament, and it was when I was in Milwaukee, drunk at a bar. And
Hell yeah!
Lots of sports on the TV, but on the main screen was the NBA in-season tournament. But no, I had to make sure I came in and told my good friend Matt.
I was good. I went by. You were on the air down the hallway.
Yes, yeah.
So I couldn't interrupt. I didn't want to interrupt.
Jack Johnson.
So,
no, you're a professional. That's it. You're a professional and a scholar.
It is really what makes you not fit in as well as you could, Matt. You're a little too professional, and I think if you would just go ahead and slop it up a little bit more, you could have barged in to Jack's show down there, and we could have done this in like 3 different formats.
This has really taken me back because now, that would have been a very Letterman-esque for me thing to do, back when you two are too young to remember this, but I just remember the old days when he would walk in on Live at 5, the New York local news, and
What
just
a
walk
great
in and
bit.
interrupt other shows and everything.
That's great. You have that authority here. You could do that for pretty much, I think, any show here. I think if you walked in and sat down, I think most people would be like, well, it's time for Matt Derrick to be here. And that's an honor. That's a gift.
It is a gift.
I mean, it makes me kind of want to just test it out and see how often I would get kicked out. And
Yeah, you should. I'm not going to kick anybody
Tell
out.
you what, you have my blessing. 7 a.m. Monday. During Todd Lebo's segment on the Border Patrol. You have my blessing. Come bang that door down.
The only guy who I ever know who has just said time and time again, man, I hate Mac Derrick, is Jay Gutierrez. And I know he doesn't work here anymore. He's been gone for a while. So I think he'll be fine. As
I'm
long
in
as you
trouble
don't
if he
cross
doesn't
paths
work
with him.
exactly. Yeah.
As long as you're safe from him, you'll be safe.
What were you guys talking about, though?
The dessert, the Royale.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think Matt turned that into a trifle. That's my guess. I think this turned into a trifle. Do you have?
Did I tell you what? I can remember. I told you what I turned it into.
Well, I don't know what trifle means, but yes, you did tell me it turned into like it didn't. The Royale did not stay fluff, right? Did not.
The cake cracked.
Did it get to dome territory first, or did the cake crack when you were in? Because the parts
It
where people
literally
roll up.
cracked while I was rolling it.
Okay, so it never got to slice in place. I'm going to stick with my trifle bet.
That's what I called it.
Yes!
I called it a trifle.
Yes!
I took the cake and I sliced it in little chunks and everything, and then I tossed a layer of that on the bottom of the bowl.
Thank you, Dylan.
And then I threw some mousse in there, and then some whipped cream, then another layer of cake, another layer of peanut butter, or another layer of the peanut butter mousse, and another layer of cream. Called it a trifle. Not technically, I guess, a trifle.
But
I thought if I was challenged by anyone else, I was just going to say that it was a deconstructed Swiss Royale.
also great.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That's
Charlotte Royale. So.
Renee made a trifle of all sorts of various flavors and whatnot. It was a big swing for all of the different elements of it. For I think it was Halloween. So good. I just would eat a spoonful of it just like in passing for a good week. I think.
I'm starting to pick up trifle as just a mixture of good things together. Then
And
like,
layered.
Yeah, it's like a
7-layer bean dip or
big
something
big
like that.
parfait for sweet baked goods and mousse.
Okay.
And again, that's Renee's was
This
sort
sounds
of
heavenly.
it was like a mousse and a cake and a whipped cream and a mousse and a cake and a whipped cream kind of thing, but in like a big. At least Renee we have a trifle dish now. It might have been a wedding present. I can't remember. If someone listening bought that for us as a wedding gift. We've gotten great use out of it. Sorry, I forgot who got it. But it's a big sort of a crystal bucket essentially that you do that so you can see the layers.
You just got married recently, right?
I did.
I got a wedding on Saturday.
You're getting married on Saturday?
I'm going to a wedding on Saturday.
okay.
For people who are getting married, 2 people who are getting married.
That's good.
Shout out to Kathy and Brandon.
Shout out.
I plan on just giving cash in an envelope. Is that all right?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
That's perfectly acceptable. Are you kidding?
It's not too late to get Tupperware, I guess, for them. But
No, we did like an Amazon wish list thing. It was that was very easy. So we just picked some things. We had also been living in sin. We had been living in this house together for a while before, so we'd already bought some stuff. So yeah, I think any cash can be directly put into some sort of like honeymoon fund or
I'm a cash guy.
be a cash guy. The only thing is going to be like, what do I do with this cash dollar? Are you going to write a check or are you going to put green dollar bills into an envelope?
So I'm gonna first put the cash in my bank account, then into my DraftKings sportsbook. Bet it on the New Jersey Devils tonight, over 1.5 goals between whoever they're playing in the first period. Withdraw those winnings and then put it in an envelope as cash.
I think that's great.
Pennies included.
The only other thing is maybe you spread it out a little bit. Go put a crazy futures bet down and just put the ticket in there. You say, hey, if this hits, I was going to give you either $10 cash or if who's a funny MVP candidate? I don't know. At this point, we've really gotten pretty
Aaron
boiled
Rodgers.
down. If Aaron Rodgers,
Comeback player of the year.
If the Jets make the playoffs, let's just make it that. If the Jets make the playoffs, you're getting $1,000 from Marco.
Damn, I won't. That's it. That's what I'm gonna do with wedding gifts from now on going forward. This is why you should tune into the zone.
That's really what
This
it's
is why
for.
I
It's
tune
for
the zone.
degenerate gift giving.
I mean,
And baking.
Cash is clearly perfectly acceptable because I remember
No, betting tickets, betting slips only, betting slips.
Because I vaguely remember somebody getting married and actually requesting that you just like Venmo them money.
Yeah, that's sweet too.
That was you I'm talking
Oh,
about.
was it really? It's like, that's great. I was pretty.
It was like a list of things like, and by the time I guess I got late to the party a little bit.
Maybe so.
Because by the time I got there, the only things that you could do was like either buy airplane tickets to Europe or Venmo cash to.
Yeah. You may have picked up. I was pretty far removed from a lot of the gift building stuff.
Well, I was gonna say, actually, the Venmo all went to Renee.
That's what I am realizing for sure right now.
Now we know Renee just pocketed the money, and you never saw that.
Yeah,
so.
I straight up learned right now that there was a Venmo option on our registry. I did not know that. We got married 6 months ago, and now I have learned. I'm sure it went into honeymoon things or groceries or whatever.
I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure that's going right into Renee's nest egg. I mean,
you're gonna come across a
shoebox
shoebox
going
full
into
of
the
money.
rainy day account there. Yeah,
I would love to find out that Renee has a rainy day account. I think that'd be fabulous if that's a little IRA deposit right there. Sure, man. Whatever works.
An individual Renee account. I like that.
That's very good.
Smart.
Mark, you sure you want to stick around?
This has literally probably been the best 5 minutes of radio that we've ever done.
No, yeah. For me at least. I think. Here's the thing. I think until Jason gets his voice back, at least you can just.
Is that what's wrong
now
right now?
You're talking.
Or you can. Do you want to be Jason? I'll go. I'm kind of missing my chair over there. If you want to just host the rest of the day today.
I mean, have you ever got to be the big chair?
No, only on days when no one's here and I can play pretend.
That's sort of sad.
No.
Why don't you come over here and throw it a break?
Okay.
Hey, now, Dylan, I'm gonna
shaking.
take my live read over there to that chair. So I'm gonna do my live read from over there.
And switch.
But Marco's gonna throw the break over here.
Right now, I'm the only one at a microphone with Dylan, so I guess that we're in charge.
And I do have to read this in a second.
What's the live read?
You don't even have to know about that anymore. Okay, Dylan, are you ready for Marco? So this is Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest.
Yes. Hello.
You're in the
Marco,
zone.
how are you?
You're Marco Marquez. And we're going to take a timeout. And up next, we'll get into Chiefs-Packers with Matt Derrick.
All right.
Before he does, guys,
Please.
can I point out that I had a brain cramp when I was putting Marco into my phone. So, and I may not have actually remembered his last name when I put it into my phone. So I have it in there as his Twitter name.
Awesome.
So
awesome. So you want to sign
Damn it,
off?
Matt, I love you even more now. Just when I thought it wasn't impossible.
Marco Taquito?
So yes, it has Marco Taquito is his name on my phone.
Well, it's correctly pronounced Marquez despite NFL wide receivers, but no, I'm just kidding. Say it however you want. Coming up next on The Zone with Joshua Brisco, continuing the conversation with Matt Derrick at ChiefsDigest.com as they get into Sunday night's game between the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs. You're tuned in to Sports Radio 810 WHB. I'm going to go get some sleep.
Hey, do you know there's a top 5 matchup in Lawrence, Kansas tonight? If you need tickets, be sure to check out my... Still hanging out with Matt Derrick here in the zone. We've sent Marco Marquez off in style. I feel good about that. I'm Joshua Brisco. Dylan Michaels on the other side of the glass. We'll have Jason back on Monday, probably. We'll see how the voice goes, but it's just us for the rest of your Red Friday. And Matt Derrick, of course, brought to you by Cap One Lending. Matt, we could actually talk about the Chiefs here now after we've done dessert, a little bit of Star Wars, and a whole lot of Marco, which is a good day of work for me. But with the things that we saw from the Raiders, that game feels relatively long ago now at this point.
It does.
But you got a 100-yard receiving performance from a Chiefs wide receiver, namely Rashee Rice. And we have since gotten a little more dialogue on what it means for a receiver to be Patrick-friendly and maybe for an offense to be receiver-friendly. What was your view of specifically the offense doing what it did against the Raiders?
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty notable. I mean, even Andy Reid kind of admitted to a little bit of the deficiencies in the opening script. And to me, and I feel like Andy's comments kind of fit this as well, so I think he kind of felt the same way. They were obviously designed to exploit some things that they saw from the Raiders. However, what didn't really calculate in was that the Raiders were going to open that game up with so much energy and actually have some of the crowd on their side. And so you're running some slow developing plays against a team that was just playing super fast and overly energetic and just kind of ate things up. So, like you get a running back screen that goes for minus 11 yards.
Yep.
Not ideal.
Yep.
But then once they got into the real meat of the game plan, which was go back to the fundamentals, don't do anything too fancy, just take what the defense is giving you, get the ball out quickly to some of your playmakers in space and let them move around, design a few things exclusively for Rashee Rice and actually get to them, not just have them on the play sheet and never call them, but actually focus on it. And good things happened. I mean, they've been trying to hit the deep ball all season. Yep. Well, they hit a 39-yard touchdown by throwing the ball 4 yards downfield.
That's right.
That's, to me, should be the reminder that, you know what? To hit the deep ball, move the ball in chunks, you don't have to throw the ball 39 yards.
Is what we saw against the Raiders more a building block for things going where the offense is going to go from now, or is that going to be more or less what we're seeing? Like, is there going to be a significant amount of build on top of that, or is that going to be pretty close to kind of like the legit version of the Chiefs offense we see the rest of the way?
I mean, it should be a legit version of the offense that we see the rest of the way because really, in all aspects, that was the Chiefs team that we saw in 2022. Because that's what they needed to be. I mean, and now the way that these defensive zones are now presenting themselves, and I think it's two factors. I mean, one, I think it's certainly the defenses and the way that they're attacking the Chiefs because there's no – and Antonio Pierce kind of laid this out because in the past, there was still an effort to try and put some pressure on Mahomes, even if teams weren't blitzing him as much because they know how dangerous that is. Now the plan is, and you can tell this week in and week out, the defensive strategy is keep Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. Don't let him escape because if he gets outside on the edges, he can make plays and he can hurt you. Keep him contained. Play tough on the edge. Set the edge against those tackles so that you're just not letting him escape. If he is going to escape, make him go up the middle and kind of run to the middle of the field, but just try and contain him in the pocket because if you contain Patrick Mahomes in the pocket, this Chiefs offense will make mistakes. They'll commit a penalty. Mahomes will try to force into a pass or a window. He will throw it downfield, into a zone that they feel like that favors the defense. And the numbers to me kind of reflect that. I mean, I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is the worst quarterback. I don't think there's anything wrong with his deep ball, but his passer rating on deep balls this year. I mean, Zach Wilson looks at that and says, wait, that's bad.
Right.
I mean,
right.
What? 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, I think, on deep balls this year. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is not Patrick Mahomes. I don't think that's on him. I think it's on everybody else. And that comes back to being Patrick-friendly and all these things is that, he doesn't have the receivers right now for that. Maybe he doesn't have the offensive line to do some of the things, or at least they're not working in concert well enough. But this isn't me saying, Patrick Mahomes needs to fix this, but the only thing that Patrick Mahomes can do to fix it really is just not to look for it as much.
Yeah.
And what Andy Reid can do to fix it is not put him in positions where plays turn into that. Just get rid of – right now, teams are giving you that window and that buffer near the line of scrimmage. Take advantage of it. get it to Sky Moore and Rashee Rice in those positions, because both those guys can work with the ball in space. So, that should be what the Chiefs do going forward. I mean, we'll see. They did it last year, and they did it to great effect. Yeah. But right now, I mean, the way that this offense is constituted, and teams will continue to try that. I mean, they will just sit back and say, hey, you know what? If we can keep Patrick Mahomes in the pocket, eventually a penalty, a turnover, something will go our way.
And that's something that they didn't have the penalties. There were a couple, but they didn't have the complete crushing penalties, and they didn't have any of the crushing turnovers against the Raiders. And I don't – the thing that I worry about some now, and maybe it's just because the Raiders defended Travis Kelce differently than the Dolphins and Eagles, on early downs in particular, where when the Eagles and Dolphins were like, hey, we're just going to dedicate our entire defense to making sure Travis Kelce is not getting any room to breathe and make somebody else beat us, being able to do more horizontal with some of the cushions you're getting, that I think is translatable. I wonder what happens if the Packers or whoever else down the stretch goes back to putting more early down focus on Travis Kelce and then saying, hey, we're going to we're going to flip the script from a few years ago, and we're going to say, we'll hold everything in front of us and make you beat us deep. Just because that's always a little chess match. I wonder what the Chiefs' counter to that counter will be, because I imagine we're going to have some need for that before playoff football gets here. I don't think the Eagles are going to let them get completely eaten yards after the catch and screen games all day.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect that the typical good, smart defense, and maybe not one that's a little cocky or confused, because we saw that like the Broncos and the Chargers, who should know Travis Kelce better than anybody, didn't do this. But basically, you should have 3 people on Travis Kelce at some point during the entire play. I mean, somebody chucks him at the line of scrimmage. That should be part of your plan. That should be step one. Yep. And then you've got bracket coverage on him the rest of the way. I mean, if you've got a linebacker who can cover him, do it. I mean, probably not going to work, but put a safety on him, and then you're certain they're probably going to have a second safety over the top on him. I mean, that's how you do it. Now, what's going to be interesting to me is how long will it take before teams then decide, okay, now we really got to focus on Rashee Rice.
Right.
So, yeah, we're still going to bracket Kelce. We're still going to chuck him at the line, but we're going to put our best corner on Rashee because maybe that's the guy that's the biggest threat right now. And if that's the case, then that means that the other guys have got to step up. And I think right now, I mean, we'll see how the snaps go. I would expect the rest of the way that Rashee Rice will end up being the Chiefs receiver with the most snaps.
Yeah.
And then it will probably be, Marquez, Valdez-Scantling, Justin Watson, Sky Moore, probably all right about the same amount. I mean, that's where they were last week against the Raiders. They'll probably have about the same amount. When Kadarius Toney gets back and healthy, he'll probably, my guess would be a little bit more step back. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a 30, 40 snap guy, but is he going to be a 20 snap guy? Probably.
I could also 100% see him being a 40 snap guy starting in January. And I don't mean week 18. I mean the playoffs. Like it just where correct me if you've heard it any differently, but when Andy Reid, I think at least twice now, has been asked about Kadarius Toney's usage, and he's just mentioned like broadly health, that feels like Andy Reid just saying, listen, everybody knows this dude's made out of glass, but when everything is moving, it is a blast to watch. Like that's just my refusal to give up on Kadarius Toney. I can't help it.
I mean, the Maserati comparison continues to be intact. I mean, when that thing is purring, when the engine is running, there's nothing that can stop Kadarius Toney. It's just that he's been in the shop with a knee, with a sprained toe, with an ankle, with a hip. I mean, he's a finely tuned auto that just needs maintenance.
Kind of going back to the Patrick-friendly phrasing and concept
Love
of all
that line
of this.
from Andy Reid, by the way.
It's really good, and it is also fascinating because I don't know if the Chiefs narrowed the receiver group by choice against the Raiders, or if it was a decision made for them by Mecole Hardman going to IR, Toney being a late scratch, and Richie James being active for the first time since coming off IR. He was a healthy scratch the week prior off of IR. But what do you think their honest preference is in terms of they've got the receivers they've got? We are long past the trade deadline. These are the guys, but publicly they've said a lot. Matt Nagy said a lot about now we're just going to have 6-7 guys in the rotation. Connor Embry said we're going to have all these guys and we're going to get all these touches working. But also there are some very obvious difficulties that come from that. So what do you think? Where's the truth in that spread?
That's the $1 million question to me, because it certainly seemed like against the Raiders, and this is where it gets into small sample size and hard comparison because, yes, they shortened the bench out of necessity against the Raiders, and it seemed to work really well. But then again, they also had a completely different game plan than they were using when they were rolling 7 receivers out there and trying to get the ball rotated around. So, how would it look if they had the exact same game plan, but they've got 2 more guys involved? We'll see. I mean, and it won't be that bad. I mean, really, what? I don't know if you got the snaps in front of you. Richie James have 17, I think.
That sounds right. I'll grab him. But.
So, I mean, hey, I still really would like to see more Richie James. I mean, I'm sure that the Chiefs have a reason for not including him more. Maybe there's something that they just see that I haven't seen, but that guy, to me, just feels like he could do more if given the opportunity. Maybe he's been given those opportunities in practice and hasn't earned more. I mean, I get coming back from an injury, 8-week layoff. They also didn't want to repeat what they did with Kadarius Toney in week 1 and put him into a rusty position where it can really bite him. But, I mean, that's the one guy that I feel like is being underutilized. But, it turns into the same conversation. I think we talked about this comparison before. You got 2 quarterbacks, you have none. Yeah. You got 7 receivers, you have none. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where the Chiefs are. I mean, they right now, and I think Rashee Rice obviously is going to be forced to be kind of the alpha ahead of time. I mean, I do think Rashee Rice is a 1,000-yard receiver in this league. Is he right now? Well, he's playing like it, so I mean, you kind of need to force it to him. Whether he's got the consistency to do that, we will see. But I don't know. I mean, right now, how do you distribute those snaps? Because after Rashee Rice, I can't say, well, this guy has earned the playing time over this guy, because right now they're all kind of playing equal to me.
Richie James played 9 offensive snaps, 7 special teams. That gets you to 16 total.
There you go. That's probably what I had in mind.
9 offensive snaps. I don't remember when, but Montreal Washington had 2 offensive snaps.
Yep.
I don't remember when those happened. But I was kind of thinking, who is the second best wide receiver on this team right now? And you just answered before I asked it. Well, everyone will have an answer. You could make an argument for a couple of guys, I guess. But there is not a correct answer to that question. And that's rough considering some investment. Sky Moore, a second-round pick. MVS, a decent contract. Justin Watson, bring back on a 2-year deal. It's cheaper, but with the plans of him being around. Is there a second receiver in the pecking order that you think has earned that spot in even the finest of margins?
That's a great way to phrase the question, because I don't know. I mean, I don't either. I can make a case for and against everybody.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, you can say Justin Watson because he's the guy who runs the most consistent routes. At least, the Chiefs will tell you he's their most complimentary receiver in the aspect that he's going to be in the right place. So, that offense is so dependent upon, the guys who aren't necessarily getting the ball, running the right routes. I mean, Rashee Rice's touchdown is a great example of that. Yep. Because it's freed up, because I think was it Justin Watson that ran like a curl route that was designed to make sure that Rashee was open underneath on that drag route. So, I mean, it's designed to work in concert. Justin Watson's your best guy for those routes, even though ideally he's not going to get 11 targets. Right. Okay, who's the best receiver on the back of their football card? Marquez.
Yeah.
I mean, he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been the most consistent throughout his entire career. And you can say, hey, this year he's had some drops. Well, he's had some drops every year. Mm-hmm. He's also had some big plays wiped out by penalties, or he has given them some big penalty yards when he's been, there's been a defensive pass interference against him. So maybe he's just had some bad luck. Maybe he's been cost some yards by penalties that he would otherwise have. And then, hey, Sky Moore, I still think there's a lot of potential.
I've like slightly come around to being like, I don't know, maybe there's a little something left there. I want to squeeze a little juice out.
I mean, there seems to be so much, and we don't get to know this time of year how he looks in practice.
Yeah, but
he looked great in training camp. He looked like he was on the verge of breaking through. So, I have a hard time, betting against him right now. You can, and once again, I keep saying Richie James. I mean, Richie James, there were some times in training camp just absolutely destroyed guys' ankles to the point where you're like, this guy, I see why he didn't get any snaps in San Francisco now, because he was the second best Debo on the team.
Right. Right.
And then when he got to be maybe the best Debo on the team in New York, they actually used him. He put some numbers up, and he made Daniel freaking Jones look like a competent NFL quarterback.
Yeah. So, with all of that being said, I'm not trying to trap you here, but if you can accentuate the positives of all of those guys and say, well, look, the best version in recent memory of MVS is this guy. The best version of Richie James in recent memory is this guy. The best version of Sky Moore that we saw in training camp is this guy. Why have absolutely zero of them done anything close to achieve their ceiling this year? I don't, and sometimes you can say, oh, coaching. It's a very easy, just like big sticker to slap over something. Say, oh, the coaching's not good, or they're not putting in the right situations, whatever. But I am genuinely trying to get an answer to that question because I'm sure it's multifaceted and there are some complex elements to it. But if Richie James was better in New York than he's been in Kansas City, if Sky Moore is better in training camp than he is in games, et cetera, if MVS regresses from last year to this year, I don't know what you fix there. I'm encouraged, I guess, because fixing whatever big problem A is could trickle down to fix a lot of smaller problems. But I don't know what big problem A is. There's just a lot of common threads there.
Yeah, and that's why, when I look at the numbers, it tells me and suggests to me that, the majority of the Chiefs' problems are on the deep ball. And that's why I just keep fixating on that because you want to point to the drops being a problem. Well, okay. They've got 20, depending on who you ask, between 26 and 29 drops. Okay. Well, 6 of those are Rashee Rice, and he's done enough to compensate for those. Yep. Those are, for the most part, rookie drops. A lot of Rashee's drops have just been simply trying to take off without the ball before he secures the ball. Yeah. Those are things you can fix and you can learn, and with experience, and he does it enough repetition, those will go away. A couple of those are Travis Kelce's, which are out of character for him. And are they age related? Are they pressure related? Is it, the coverage that he's getting, because he's probably getting different coverage than he's gotten in the past. So maybe that's affecting him. 3 of those were Kadarius Toney in one game. That was probably more related to the fact that it was his first action since coming off knee surgery in 6 weeks. So now we're really almost attributing half the drops, to legitimate. And you take away those drops right there that we've kind of isolated, and suddenly this is a team that doesn't drop the ball that much. They're just kind of an average team.
This is probably an undefeated team that maybe lost to the Broncos that doesn't drop the ball that much.
It's to me that the drops are more of an outlier statistic than anything else. So then you look at their passing numbers. And the reality of it is that when Mahomes is throwing behind the line of scrimmage, he's throwing short passes, he's throwing intermediate passes, his numbers are the same as they've been his entire career. The difference is that he is absolutely, his numbers, I'm not going to say him, his numbers are terrible throwing the ball downfield. They're not getting touchdowns. He's got the most turnovers he's ever had on deep balls. His passer rating is in the 40s. That's what this team isn't doing well right now. And is it because of play calling? Is it? I think it all stems back once again. It's the circle of life. Yeah. It stems back. Why are those numbers that bad? Is it that the receivers aren't being Patrick friendly enough? Maybe. Is it the fact that the defenses are trying to take away that in its entirety? They are only trying to take away that. They do not want the Chiefs to be picking up 40-yard gains. So they're trying to take away that deep ball. That's the majority of it. And that circles back again. If teams are going to do that, why bother?
Right.
Right. It's kind of like the Chiefs have been, and I've used this analogy a couple of times too, the Chiefs are a 3-point shooting team that are just cold from 3 right now. Yeah. And an NFL season, that's, you don't get that many times to shoot a 3. You don't get many times to take a deep ball. If you are cold, it hurts you a lot. And teams are trying to, and the Chiefs have been like, we're just going to keep shooting them. Yeah. And the reality of it is that, that's only going to open up if you destroy a team with 1,000 paper cuts first. And against the Raiders, they finally started doing that.
They started hitting some layups. They went on a long run hitting their layups. And I'm really interested to see how the Packers end up trying to account for that, or how they approach this Chiefs offense going into this game on Sunday night. We'll talk more about that with Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest next in the Zone. It's Matt Derrick with us here in the zone, brought to you by Capital One Lending. The Freedom Loan at Capital One Lending is the exclusive loan that helps you pay your home off in less than half the time and gives you access to your home's equity without having to refinance. Go to caponelending.com. I don't want to say what we were talking about during the break in case we ever want to do that bit in the near future.
You were doing what you always do, which is just reeling me in.
Just trying to reel it in and get us back on track to figure out what you think's going to happen in Chiefs-Packers. We got enough time to talk about it a little bit. We can hold the prediction for just a second if you need to. But where are you at right now on how legitimate this Packers team is and how real the growth of Jordan Love has become?
It's probably a little bit real, but I feel like this little winning streak, I mean, if you look at it, it's because they do what a good 500 team does every once in a while, as opposed to a bad 500 team. They run the football effectively and don't turn it over.
Yep.
If this team, hey, Dylan's been playing really well of late. We'll see if they get Jones back. But if Dylan can continue to play the way that he has been, they run the ball effectively, Jordan Love doesn't make any mistakes, this can be a perfectly adequate offense. They're not a high-powered team. They're not a team that's going to go out there and just blow the doors off. They've got to play some good defense. That's their key. I mean, if they can't execute that little strategy, good defense, ball control offense, run the football, no turnovers. That's how they've been winning games of late. And if they can't do that, they don't have much of a chance. I mean, they are an epitome of to me, like a 500 team. That's kind of where their numbers say that they are.
And they'll probably need one explosive play. They have some explosive receivers. It's not an offense completely built out of that. But do you have a feeling one way or the other if L'Jarius Sneed's going to try to travel with somebody? Because Christian Watson is a little bit bigger and more of a deep threat. Romeo Dobbs, good player. Is there a feel for where Sneed ends up?
I would think there's a pretty good chance that it's on Watson, but we will see. This might be, because of the way the Packers are situated, maybe he doesn't travel this weekend. I bet you just let him sit in one spot, but I could still see him moving around. If I did, I think it would be Watson.
Give me a score.
I think I'm gonna bet on the Chiefs' offense being efficient. I won't bet on them just blowing into the doors off you right now quite yet, but I think they'll continue to be better. I just don't have a lot of faith in the Green Bay offense against this Chiefs defense the way that it's playing right now. I will take the Chiefs 24-13.
24-13 Kansas City. Matt, I think this segment was a blowout win. We got Marco, we talked about dessert, we even got to the Chiefs a little bit. So thank you for being a part of it.
I just appreciate you for keeping me around.
It's wonderful to have, birds of a feather flocking together. That joke was just for Matt, and even that wasn't really that funny. Kendall Gammon, next!
He knows exactly how many times the ball will rotate on a long snap, and he'll juggle anything you throw at him. It's Kendall Gammon in the Zone. Brought to you by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. Recognized as the #1 place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle. Visit crownautomotive.com to see the latest deals. Experience the Crown difference.
That intro can only mean one thing. Of course, it's time to talk to our man Kendall Gammon, presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. In here with us. You actually talked to Sterling last week. Did he treat you okay?
He treated me okay, no doubt about it.
He's nice to some people.
I mean, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a strong 3 to 3.5. So, hey, I've had worse.
If there's anything that Sterling has ever admired and ever striven to be, it's to be a strong 3 to 3.5. That is the Sterling Holmes.
Dare to be average. No, I was talking about myself. He was fabulous. I was talking about myself.
Well,
I strive for mediocrity.
If you can give us I would say a 4 to 5. Jason's not even here. I don't know who's still listening.
Well, I mean, when you said that you were going to be driving, I'm like, I'm in studio. I got to. I
appreciated
see you in the
that.
Seat. Absolutely.
I appreciated that. It also did feel a little bit like maybe you had gotten a couple calls. Like maybe Lebo had called you and was like, Kendall, if you could just get in studio. Like Josh is driving, but we're going to give you like one of those cars where you have a brake pedal, you know?
Yeah, exactly right.
You might not be able to steer, but you can definitely slow us down if we need to. But
I can slow things down. There's no doubt about that. Yes. There's a lot of things I've slowed down in my life.
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was
Sterling
fabulous.
notwithstanding.
Absolutely. I got the families together, and we went to Capitol Grill and had a nice steak dinner on Sunday evening. And Thanksgiving was quiet. The turkey trot in the morning up there in Parkville, and just had a great time. Yeah.
Also, I know I wasn't even here for it, but I after the fact, I got your endorsement and I believe what was Mick Schaefer's endorsement for his new place on the tourism board for Pitt. Is there anything you needed to continue to kind of get? We were really taking the front seat and bringing people to what I will just call Gorilla Nation.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have enough time to espouse all the great things about Pittsburgh State University and the Gorillas. I mean, you got to love that. And But yeah, it's a great place, and boy, Mick talking about that and what they've done. The last 5 years owning that place.
Yeah,
I am a homer. There's no doubt about it, obviously. But that is a great college football atmosphere and stadium, and it's great for the high school playoffs as well.
Yeah, it sounds like it was an incredible venue for that, and I'm just glad that that you and Mick can bond over that and really bring two championship levels of football together.
Not to mention world peace, probably somehow as well. So
I think that's on
there's
the table.
that.
I think if you and Mick were on the board of creating world peace, I think we'd at least be closer.
We're all more than a little bit surprised. One of the things, yes, no doubt about it.
It would at least bring a little levity to it all. So with everything that has been going on this week, again, I was out of town for part of it. I watched the first part of Chiefs Raiders while I was trying to help my little sister get a hook out of the beak of a bird, of an ibis.
Wow.
In fact, it was a chaotic experience. She's just constantly fishing. They're in Florida. She's an outdoor kid, and it was a hell of a way to watch the game. But then going back through, I hadn't watched a game with my family in quite a while. I'm usually watching it in this seat right here, looking at these screens up here. And so it was a different emotional experience watching a game, in the crowd of your, in my case, pretty loud family. What did you make of that before we end up pivoting to the Packers game coming up in prime time? You saw the Chiefs offense they got some runs going. They were a competent, high-functioning offense, but in a very different way than we've seen them look for a while.
Yeah, it's interesting. That they start out and they're down 14-0. I'm like, whoa. But to their credit, they come back like they did. I mean, I think maybe 13 yards in the first couple drives and only 7 plays the first quarter. Then they put 3 drives together of plus 70 yards, and you're like, okay, this is more like, because we saw a little bit of that against Philadelphia. They they simply turned the ball over. I mean, anytime Pacheco rushes like he did against Philadelphia, you should be winning that game. So there were some good things about it. I was impressed with how Oakland, I can't get it out of me.
I almost do it. I didn't play.
I was impressed how Vegas came out with everything and give them credit, but when it came down to it, it's a better coach team in the Kansas City Chiefs, and there's just better players top to bottom, left to right.
What do you make of as kind of the term Patrick friendly has been now bubbling up to the surface amongst these younger receivers and figuring out, I mean, it's been a long running narrative, obviously, but especially Rashee Rice and really the rest of this group figuring out how to get on the same page?
Well, to begin with, when I heard it, I was like, I just started giggling because I was like, oh, the press is going to lose their minds with this one asking about it. And they did, which was fabulous. But I think he brings up a good point, which is Rashee is understanding things more. And that he's making the effort. Not that he wasn't interested, but sometimes, I mean, you're talking about the best QB in the history of the game, in my estimation. I know it's early on, but let's be honest. And you come in as a rookie. I mean, you want to do everything you can, but you may be a little intimidated at times to go up and ask things or whatever. But he's obviously going up, trying to learn. And I think Patrick talked about it as well. I think also probably by Big Red, him coming up with that. I don't think he went in there thinking, okay, I'm going to use Patrick friendly when they asked me that. I think it just came out, and then, but it does make sense. And we saw in that game a lot more of the routes and your screens, your swing passes, your bullets passes, getting the ball out of your hands where you're not reading the coverage on the run. You're doing things that are somewhat pre-programmed.
Yeah. I mean, with something else that kind of goes into not just what parts are you comfortable putting a receiver in that situation for. Yeah. Matt Nagy said yesterday during his presser that they would not have been comfortable going to Rashee Rice or any rookie on one of those third down situations. That 3rd and 8 little drag that he ends up getting the first down on is just the fact that you have 3 or 4 different plays you could pick for like the best Rashee Rice play of the day is such a great thing that we could argue about. Well, I think this was good. Well, this was better. Well, this was the best of them all. But I did find it interesting that by saying that there was a new level that Rice has gotten to in Nagy's eyes, it is admitting, hey, early in the year, we were not going to put him in that spot, even if his physical tools were there. Again, for all the time we've spent talking about learning how to play receiver with your face in a fire hose.
Right.
What do you look for in terms of little signposts that guys have hit those marks?
Well, first and foremost with Nagy, I appreciate the transparency because he's being very real with things, and it's right. I mean, it takes a while to adjust. I think the big thing, I realize Rashee's had a few drops, but I think sometimes it's, ready to run and going after it, and that happens sometimes. You don't make an excuse for it, but it does happen. But I think he catches the ball very firmly, very confidently, and then he has this knack. And I remember, a teammate of mine, Tony Gonzalez, and I was a backup tight end. The only thing we had was, we were carbon-based forms of life. After that, the DNA diverged greatly. But I remember him talking about the fact that when he caught it, he was always taught, and he always tried to get straight up the field because that actually messes with the defense more than if you try to juke and do different things. And I was talking to my former teammate, Chad Brown, a 15-year NFL veteran with the Steelers and the Seahawks, and I asked him about it this week. When the guys get straight up the field, how does that affect the defense? He goes, it's so tough because it changes the angles of what you expect because you don't expect people to get straight up the field like they do. And what I'm getting to in a very long Edith Bunker story is the fact that Rashee Rice, when he gets the ball, he gets upfield, right upfield. And it sounds weird, but I don't think you can teach that very well. I think that's very much innate, and that's what he does, and he's a very physical player, and I think it's something that's only going to get better.
It's interesting to think about that, screwing up the angles for a defender. You look at, and listen, Travis Kelce doesn't have that burst right now at this point in his career. He does a lot of things incredibly well, but he'll put on that little like double, triple juke move where I'm going this way or this way. Nope, back to the left again. It like that is always kind of funny to watch, but it makes sense if you think about young, spry, quick turning receivers that you are just carrying it up the field. A defender never gets a chance to hone in on somebody.
No, they don't. And I was surprised, and you may know, I don't know what his 40 time is, but it appears he has more long speed than I realized.
Yeah.
And that scamper up the left side I think was fabulous. I mean, he was helped out by some blocks, no doubt about it. But again, he just took off, and it was interesting. And that's the thing that we've been waiting for, that we know has to happen, but it only happened one game. It's got to build from here. Doesn't mean that he has to do 100 yards each and every game, but you've got to be a threat so you can take a little pressure off of Travis Kelce.
Well, and so this is the thing that I've been kind of like tiptoeing around trying to figure out if what we saw against the Raiders is the new baseline for the offense and this is what you build on, right? Like this is mostly what it is, or is that really like step one in a larger thing? Because if you're the Packers this week and you watch that Raiders film, I think you're seeing another way the Chiefs can beat you.
Right.
But the thing they have failed at has been, and Matt was just talking about this with us last hour, if your deep shots are not only not landing, but are turning into interceptions as often as they're turning into big plays for you, let him go. Go ahead and focus on the short and intermediate. But I don't know what the answer to this is, but what do the Chiefs have to do if defenses start adjusting to a shorter intermediate Patrick Mahomes offense? Are they going to have to eventually counterpunch trying to go down the field again, or is that just kind of a lost part of the offense?
I think they have to go down the field. I think you maybe saw it in quarterback where Patrick Mahomes talked about how teams were playing them, and he was getting frustrated because they were doing some different things and kept bringing it up. He goes, if they're doing that, I'm going to start throwing it over the top again, and he did just that. Now, they had a different wide receiving core, but we have a core here in Kansas City that can get over the top and do some things. They haven't as much as we would like, but that can happen. But you've got to force the action. I think the offense last week, running game was a little bit more direct. I think Pacheco and what he's doing is very nice, and he's complimenting everything. Well, he doesn't have to rush for 100 yards each week. He just has to be a threat, and they have to get third and shorts, fourth and shorts, and they have to make sure that they hold on to the ball, and they did those things last week.
Where do you stand right now with the offensive line? Because it's been kind of an odd group to evaluate because we knew who to talk about last year. This year they spent a lot of money on Juwan Taylor, but then it's false starts for 4 weeks, and we've covered that ground plenty. When you see the good and bad of both tackles, and even I don't think this necessarily showed up against the Raiders, but a couple times this year the interior has been a little bit disappointing.
Right.
But it seems like maybe there's a little stability there. What have you seen from the front five?
I think all in all, it's a good front five. They're playing well. The biggest thing is they're healthy and they're all playing together. I know briefly the right tackle, Juwan may have went out. Or
Donovan Smith
went
out
for just
a
a little
few
bit,
snaps,
but I think he's okay. I don't know the status. But
yeah.
I think they're okay. The fact is the other team, we always say this in the NFL, and you know this, the other team gets paid as well. And there's a lot of good players on other teams. And sometimes people are like, oh, they gave up a sack or something went wrong. The front five's not good. No, they're pretty damn good. They've done a nice job this year keeping Patrick pretty clean. I mean, there's hit and miss every once in a while, but for the most part, it's as good offensive line as I've seen in quite some time for the Chiefs. And that's a big thing. That being said, it's kind of funny because I think the one thing the teams that play the Chiefs want to do is make sure that Patrick stays in the pocket.
Yeah.
And so to a degree, I don't know if it's a function of that also and just making sure, but either way, I think they've done a nice job, and the fact that they can continue to stay healthy, that's huge.
He is so good at there's some charts that would show this. I don't have any of them in front of me. I haven't seen any up to the last few weeks. But Patrick Mahomes is so good at not letting pressures turn into sacks. And I don't know where you fall in the philosophy of how much sacks reflect the quarterback, how much they affect the offensive line. Of course, on both extremes, they're all interconnected.
Right.
But that trait might be one of the very few things left on Patrick Mahomes' resume we don't talk about enough because it's unbelievable.
I would agree because when he gets out of the pocket, he can hurt you with his legs, obviously. But the big thing is he has this innate ability to see people downfield, and he's tucked it in and ready to run, and he can go from tucking it and made his decision to run to getting the ball up and throwing it with either hand and probably a foot if he had to, and just doing things that has never been done, and that's just hard to defend. You see times where he's ready to tuck it, and you see a guy, mid-level linebacker, have to come up and make it and go after him, and then right as he gets to the line of scrimmage, maybe one foot's over, but the other one's not, and they both have to be over for it to be illegal, and he throws the ball. He does these different things, and it's quite honestly, it's not fair unless he's on your team. Then it's fabulous.
It's amazing. It's a great place to be. You'll also sometimes see a dude with a number in the 90s have him pretty well squared up, and all of a sudden Mahomes catches the angle, and it's a first down that never should have been there. You've been mentioning Rashee Rice kind of having like different maybe game speed than combine speed and all of that. Does anybody come to mind for you from your playing days when you looked around? People don't treat him like he's fast, but he's faster than he should be, like a deceptively quick guy, as Mahomes is the most incredible example of that in football, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, you see these running backs here and there, but nobody comes to mind. I always thought, Trent Green was deceptively quick and did some good things and just understood the game as well as anybody I've ever been around. Of course, I describe him as the best human being I've ever been around. But, there's guys all the time. We hear it all the time, which is there's 40 fast when you're timing, and there's when you're in your pads fast. I don't qualify for either, but all the same, it's a big deal. And when it comes down to it, if you're a football player, and that's the thing. I mean, Patrick, they say he's deceptively quick or deceptively fast. No, he's just pretty damn fast.
Yeah,
and he sees the field well. And I don't know how many times we see him where he starts to go out, and then he skates up the yard line, the sideline for another 5-10 yards, and I think the other thing that's been developed in the past several years is he understands when you have to go down and when it's maybe you need to go and fight for a little bit. And there's no doubt that's been drilled into him.
This is another just like huge big picture question. It can also relate to Jordan Love a little bit. I think this is going to be like his 12th or 13th start. He's been in the building for a long time, but it's still the one that shocked me is he's younger than Kenny Pickett. Somebody they said on the
I did not know that.
I didn't either. I can Google it again. I trust them with my statistical life, but that's incredible to me. But when you have seen, obviously, Trent was a longtime vet for a long time. He got a ton of NFL experience. But when you look at how quarterbacks do evolve and continue to grow and continue to pick up things, Patrick Mahomes was an MVP the moment he stepped onto the field ultimately. Right. But stuff like the knowledge of when you got to slide or when you can stretch the football out. Mm-hmm. How does that process shown itself to you in the lifespan of quarterbacks that you've either played with or watched?
I think you just have guys come along every once in a while that do it a little bit differently than everybody else starts watching it, I guess. I don't know I don't know if I have a great answer for that, but you just see some guys, you just recognize it. I mean, I've been around a lot of players in my life who obviously at the NFL level, you're all good. You have an ego and you do these things, but you see some guys that are just special, that it just comes naturally. And then when that's coupled with the fact that they're hard workers and they go after it, first on the field, last off the field, all those different things, those are the Hall of Famers. And I've been fortunate enough to play with so many different Hall of Famers, and they're just there's a reason they get there. It's not just the God-given talent they have, but it's how they conduct themselves as well.
What does that do when it's good? I don't know if I wouldn't make you say it if you, I don't know if you ever had a bad experience of when this was not the case, but I have to imagine that has a pretty tangible impact on everybody around also, because that's the quarterback, the highest paid, probably, certainly the face of the franchise, if they're setting that standard.
No question about it. When you look at it, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, they're leaders on the field and how they conduct themselves. They do. In my mind, they do almost everything right. That's how Trent was. That's how Will Shields was, those guys. When you have that, and Tony Gonzalez had a work ethic like nobody's business. And it was impressive to see. When you have those guys leading the locker room, that's when you get the type of locker rooms. I could even go back, one of the books that I wrote, I interviewed Mike Vrabel, and we talked about when he was with the Patriots, and he talked about it when guys came in. The coaches didn't have to say anything to him. Nobody had to say anything because there was an expectation because of the locker room and how those guys were and how they dealt. And it wasn't just Brady. It was Vrabel. It was those type of guys. And he said, no, you don't have to do it. When you have that culture, it just breeds itself.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it has to be a great
Although
spot.
It can clearly go the different way, and all of a sudden you're flexing games from Monday to Sunday.
How unbelievable is that against the Patriots of all teams, ESPN says, no, thank you. We don't want the greatest, I don't want to say greatest show on turf, but the greatest show on television right now,
right,
in terms of all of the hype that Travis Kelce has earned this year. Patrick Mahomes continue to be Patrick Mahomes. And Bill Belichick's New England Patriots are not good enough Washington Generals for them on Monday night.
It really is interesting. And now, Belichick is no doubt he's a great coach, and I think more defensive-minded I've always felt like, and I think that's just an obvious. But obviously he had help with Brady and stuff, but I go back to my days with the Steelers when he was a Browns coach, and it kind of like the Chargers were going to Charger back then, the Browns were going to Brown, and they were going to figure out a way to lose. I just remember it, and they did, and he was a coach of that and didn't survive it. So you really wonder about that, but either way, it is very telling when you move that game. And I think this is the first year that they can flex Monday night games, right? Which is a good idea, but I'd forgotten about that. So I heard you guys talking about it, and I was just like, oh, wow, yeah, absolutely. Nobody happier than yourself, however.
Yes, I understand. That's why I needed to bring my mom's perspective.
Yes.
She's furious. I'm okay with it because now the post-game show starts at 3:30. That's okay with me.
But the thing is, with the Boston fans and the Patriots and everything, they're like, yeah, we had our time. We'll take it. We're good with this.
Yeah.
They had their run.
What do you? I mean, I'm asking you to kind of diagnose from way far out, but just out of a curiosity of, if Bill Belichick is not the Patriots head coach next year and wants to be a head coach, he will have plenty of opportunities, I would imagine. Yeah. But when you look at the Patriots being a team that was like literally the example for the culture, where the Patriot way was a thing. to now, no one there is having any fun. Nobody there seems particularly good right now. The quarterback situation's a mess. I don't know what Belichick's relationship with Robert Kraft is like right now.
Right.
But do you have a hunch one way or the other what way it would make sense for the Patriots to go in terms of either a hard reset, pulling the plug on the whole deal, or all right, we're going to give Belichick a first-round quarterback and a chance to rebuild this thing?
Boy, I don't know. I mean, you feel like it's a hard reset. I mean, Juju's there, right?
Yep.
That and Mac Jones. That's the only two guys I can tell you that's on the team.
Yep.
I just don't know them, and that's amazing, quite honestly.
It really is.
Boy, I don't know. I mean, if he leaves, I would think they would have the dignity to even if Kraft said, you need to leave, they would let him resign and go with it. He deserves that. He deserves a lot. I mean, he's a great coach and first ballot Hall of Famer, obviously. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not certain. I don't know. Are they paying the tax in terms of did they sell the future out with the salary cap, and has that been a big part of it? And if it is, that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes you got to sell your soul for 4 or 5 years because of that if you're trying to win and take advantage of that quote unquote window, which they definitely did. But I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean some of the recent deals after the Brady era tabs would have all come due.
Right.
There were a couple of years. The year it was Hunter Henry and another tight end that Dylan may remember. I don't know, but a couple of the issues that Bill. Mike Gesicki, thank you. He always knows. Dylan just got a lot of info in there. But Belichick, the coach, has had to pay for some of the consequences of Belichick, the front office member, the GM, and all of that. So I think all that's fascinating. To bring us back around to a story previously reported here, this segment in the Zone. Kenny Pickett was born in June 1998. Jordan Love was born in November 1998. So Kenny Pickett a few months older than Jordan Love. Brock Purdy's only 23.
I would have lost that bet. I would have lost the Brock Purdy bet as well. My goodness, what a story that is. But yeah.
So Pickett and Love are both 25. Purdy is 23. Joe Burrow 26.
Yeah,
I love little fun with quarterback ages. Justin Fields, 24. How about that? Speaking of Jordan Love, the Packers have gotten on a hot streak here. They beat the Lions on Thanksgiving, and we've seen some big plays. We've seen a pretty functional group there. Again, very early in Jordan Love's actual playing career. Where do you land right now looking at that game and where the Packers might try to pick on the Chiefs or vice versa?
Well, I think when you look at the Packers, the last 4 games, they've won 3 of them, and the only loss is at Pittsburgh, and it was a close game, and that's no shame losing at Pittsburgh, although they're not the Pittsburgh of old. But Jordan Love, in those last 4 games, I think he's like a top 5 quarterback. I think he's hitting at a 67% percentage in that time and is right up there with them. So he's playing good football, which is certainly the antithesis of what he began the year at. But again, this was the year, I talked to some stringers up in Green Bay, and they talked about, this is the year they're trying to really find out what's going on and how he's doing. I mean, we know I believe his first start was years ago when Aaron Rodgers went out, and I mean, we basically set his mother up on the light poles, and that's where she got to watch the game from.
That's right.
That will never not be funny.
So funny.
So he's come a long ways from then. He's come a long ways since the beginning of the year. He's playing good football. Probably the big thing is he's confident, and from what I hear from the stringers is he has the locker room, and that he says the team believes in him. They feel like things are going well. That he's quiet, but he's a quiet leader, and he's got the locker room, like I said. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. He's been throwing very accurately. I think if you go to Pro Football Focus, he's been one of the most accurate QBs in those last 4 games as well. And obviously, we're taking a page out of Jason's book as we're only taking a portion of it to do it, but it makes sense. With this, so we will see. I think they're going to try to throw the ball. I don't know a ton about them. I know that their defense has played well. Is it Rashawn Gary? 3 sacks last week. Watching that Thanksgiving game. I just kept always like, okay, when are they going to lose? I mean, when are the Lions going to turn it on and win? And they never did. And I was just like, wow. I mean, it was never really a game. And that's after I believe the Lions had boat raced them, the time before when it was in Green Bay. So that was hard to see. That was interesting.
Yeah, so it's funny also because I do think the ebbs and flows of his season are a very interesting thing to pinpoint when you do have the question like, oh, is he going to lose the locker room? A lot of times you talk about young quarterbacks and there being a clock ticking on how long they have to prove themselves. But that's usually towards the beginning of a rookie contract.
Right.
Jordan Love is at the end of a rookie contract.
Yeah, they've got to make a decision, no doubt.
They have to. And I mean,
is this his 4th year?
Yeah, I think they would have had to have made a deal on the 5th-year option.
I was going
which
to say,
need
because
to
the
figure out.
first-round picks are the 5 years. Everybody else is 4-year deals.
Right, and I can't remember if they picked up the 5th year or they declined it. And well, this is all. I'll have to scroll through here. But the split of again the ebbs and flows of everything. 16 games was not a lot. 17 games is not a lot.
It's not.
To evaluate a quarterback. And LaFleur is in a good position to do that. Obviously, he has called great offenses, and he has done that to cater to Aaron Rodgers in some ways. And in some ways, he made Aaron Rodgers cater to him. But I will be extremely interested to see what that ends up looking like when he gets the rematch against Steve Spagnuolo, who it was good, who his mom could barely see the field because the stuff that Spags was doing to him on the field was not good.
Aaron just texted me, and he said he doesn't answer to anyone. So
he told me to lose his number.
Yeah, he said exactly.
You know what? Maybe they did it was the 5th-year option. Or no, I'm sorry. They did. This is why this was weird. Jordan Love signed a 1-year extension preceding a decision on the 5th-year option that is guaranteed a lot of that, but it's at a lower number than the 5th year would have been. I think they were able to spread out some of that money.
Okay.
So they were able to kind of kick the can without having to eat that whole cap hit all at once.
Well, you look, they've got young. Don't they have a pretty young team, receivers? So you have to take that into account as well. There's just a lot of variables there, but I mean, it's hard to think unless he just tanks the rest of the season that they wouldn't decide. Okay, this is still who we think we got, and go from there.
But then you have Daniel Jones, and it's like, and I think Jordan Love is probably on a better track than Daniel Jones was. But all right, Daniel Jones is at least the engines are humming here, right? I think we got something working. And then all of a sudden you go, this was the wrong guy to invest in. It's just, again, not a lot of time to work with. But we have a little more time to work with you here. What do you want to see from the Chiefs side as they head to Lambeau? I'm
curious. I want to see the defense step up and continue to do what they're doing, and I think they will. Offensively, though, we know it. We want to see Rasheed continue to do something. Love to see another another wide receiver step up and make a difference. But otherwise, and I think you look at the front 5 you talked about, them continue to make progress and not have the penalties. I think that's a big deal. That drives Big Red nuts. Some he can handle. So the pre-snap penalties you can't handle. The tackles, it's kind of funny because I still see them getting off early, but I see other teams getting off early as well. Lots of them do it. So it is what it is, and probably not going to change a ton. But I would like, probably if there's anything I'd like to see the Chiefs get over the top a couple times for big scores in that game, but more so for on down the road to put a little more fear and take more of that field into account.
I'd love to see it as well. What do you think the final score is?
I am going 24-17. I think it's a 6.5 point game, and I'm right in there somewhere. But I think the defense is going to get the best of Green Bay, and even though it's a 7-point game, I think that's a late cover for the Green Bay Packers.
It's Kendall Gammon, presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. Recognized as the #1 place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle. Visit crownautomotive.com to see the latest deals and experience the Crown difference. Thank you for bringing the Crown difference for us here today. I'm hoping that most people didn't even notice that I'm not Jason.
No, absolutely. It was a pleasure, and you were not Jason. I can confirm.
Boy, you're gonna have that's a long stretch. You got Sterling last week and me this week, and you get to talk to Jason next week if he's even here. Maybe,
or if he even remembers me.
That's what
he was like, who? What?
We've got former chef Kendall Gammon.
Absolutely. I'm French.
Yeah, that would actually, if you're a French, now you're a French chef.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what? Stick around next segment and come in as new character Kendall Gammon, a French chef.
More you can do.
Yeah, listen, that's the man's motto. Kendall Gammon here in the Zone. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next. I'd like to extend an additional shout out to Kendall Gammon, who brought me a little box of Junior Mints. Thank you, Kendall. He presumably heard earlier that I enjoy mint chocolate, even though I don't think it's a very popular food take. As Matt Derrick made an amazing sounding chocolate peanut butter dessert that turned into sort of a trifle. And if we're going to do food pairings at some point, do a little draft, I think peanut butter chocolate's very high up on everyone's big board. But mint chocolate is very high on my personal big board, but I understand that's a controversial take. I know that that's not for everybody. Maybe these are my George Pickens. You know, I'm willing to overlook some things because I believe in the talent of Junior Mints and York patties and the like. So thanks to Kendall Gammon, both for the time hanging out with us and for the Junior Mints. Give me a little pick-me-up right there. And his presence is brought to you. His presence is a presence, but his presence is also brought to you by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. We talked a little bit about Jordan Love there with Kendall, and I've talked about him some over the course of the day today because he's a really important part to figuring out where the Packers go from here. Obviously, I will save us all the trouble of the long-running saga of Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love and everything that happened in between. But this has been the year for Jordan Love to figure out what exactly he has there and what the Packers have with him. And I was listening to the Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays and Nate Tice, always a great show that does great work breaking down games and teams across the league, which is very hard to do at a high level. But those guys do a great job with it. And on today's show, they spent a little time talking about the Packers, and Nate Tice here talks about what feels sustainable about what the Packers are doing right now and with Jordan Love.
All season, his eyes have been pretty good as far as like how I feel like he should read the play out. What I'm seeing now is he loves those trick shots, man. Holy crap. But he's using those trick shots in a way that actually works, as opposed to just I said it's like a wrestler using an extra flip because it does more damage. Like that's Jordan Love a little bit, but it's all on time. And this is something, he is the epitome of this quarterback that I think of when talking about rhythm as a quarterback. And Kurt Warner had a tweet about this recently, and I wish I could find it, but he was talking about operating out of the shotgun and saying how it shouldn't be as structured footwork wise. Like everybody shouldn't be homogenous. Like everybody shouldn't look the same. The gun, this is how I interpreted it because I kind of agreed with it and I kind of took it in my own brain. But how you watch Love and watch him throw with rhythm, he's made it work for him. Lamar Jackson's the top example of this because I wouldn't teach Lamar's footwork, but it works. It's on time. So who cares how it works? But Jordan right now and how he drops and how he moves in the pocket, he's operating on time. That to me is the number one thing to sustainability. The number two thing is that he can make every throw. And three is he's super aggressive. But aggressive where it makes sense. Again, the first play to Christian Watson made sense because of how the safety drove on the ball. He throws the high route, the digs, when again, it makes sense because somebody's driving down on an underneath throw on a high-low. He takes his one-on-ones to the outside to give his guy a shot. Sometimes it doesn't work. The end of the Steelers game where it gets deflected and ends up a pick. But he's doing all the things that's a quarterback you win because of, and not because he's just a passenger.
We'll get to more of the win because of thing in a second. But if you were going to take a checklist of what you want from a quarterback who is a win because of and not a win in spite of or a passenger quarterback, three things Nate Tice rattles off there: on time, can make every throw, and is aggressive when it makes sense. I'm not here to tell you that Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes are the same quarterback. Please don't hear me say that. But if you were going to give me a chance to build a quarterback with a few key traits there, that's a pretty good place to start, and all three things that Mahomes is great at. So it helps paint the fuller picture of what the Packers have in Jordan Love and why this investment happened at the time, what they feel like they've built up to through this point, and now what they need to see from the rest of the season. But it also gives you a better feel for what the Chiefs' defense needs to do to try to get him off time when they face off on Sunday Night Football. And also that those deep shots to Christian Watson or whoever, and Watson really had the big one against the Lions, and he has not been It's not a 50-yard touchdown every game. It's not his ratio. But if Love can make every throw and will be aggressive when there's a good opportunity to be aggressive, you cannot give him those opportunities because he'll take them, he'll hit them, and it'll be within the structure and the timing of the offense. It's a dangerous combination. Here also from the Athletic Football Show, a little bit more from Nate Tice, a little bit from Robert Mays, talking about Love's footwork, what he's asked to do, his trajectory, and you heard a Lamar Jackson comp in terms of the footwork and the timing. Another interesting comparison for Jordan Love.
They ask a lot of the quarterback position within that offense in their pure
the footwork
drop-back
is
game.
insane. They have to do every footwork that I've ever. They do the Dan Fouts footwork where you just go straight backwards in the gun. I haven't seen that since Mike Martz and Kurt Warner. That footwork and how he used it and how he gets the ball off, it's like, geez, that's advanced stuff, and he's doing it. And you got to remember, this guy's 5 months younger than Kenny Pickett. Like, and this is
we're on start 10, start 11. Even if he's been in the building, this is still his first season as a starter, the first two-thirds of his first season as a starter. The comparison that I made, a lot of what he's doing in terms of how it elevates your offense, some of the arm angle stuff that we're talking about, reminds me of Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it reminds me of, where it actually is beneficial. And we talk about this all the time, and I discussed this with Chase earlier in the week. All right, how are you going to be that win because of quarterback? How are you going to elevate your offense outside of what the play gives you? And what he's been able to do with some of the arm angle stuff and just the pure arm talent stuff has elevated that offense outside of simply what the play gives him. And it's also allowed him to really operate in some of these muddy pockets as they've dealt with a lot of moving parts on the offensive line. Even against the Lions, I thought their offensive line won that matchup against Detroit overall. Some of it's game planning, but I think that they won that game up front on both sides of the ball. But even in moments where it was not that clear cut, he's still getting throws off because of his ability to operate in those confined circumstances. And I think that's been really important.
Yeah, that's what it's again making sustainability with the trick shots.
I love that last line. I kept it in just for the dismount of the trick shots that he wants to take, and some of those really impressive throws. The 10% of all NFL quarterbacks, whatever types of throws. A lot of guys can take those shots every once in a while. Sometimes you'll get real gunslinger types of quarterbacks who will take those shots in situations they shouldn't. But to be able to do everything you can footwork-wise as a quarterback, to be able to navigate around those muddy pockets, and to be able to still deliver on time, deliver anywhere, and deliver smartly. We're talking about the positives right now because I just don't feel like we've talked about Jordan Love around here very much since the game when his mom watched from Mars. But it paints a fascinating picture of what it would look like if Jordan Love has a great game on Sunday night. I mean, the timing and rhythm of everything that we talked about a ton leading up to Chiefs-Dolphins, we covered an enormous amount of that ground. You can't really say that Tua can make every throw. You can't say that Tua is an aggressive quarterback, and then when he is aggressive, it pays off. They have big chunk plays, explosive plays, uses his weapons around him very well. But a lot of that was timing and rhythm because you get the Dolphins out of timing and rhythm, and you get a few grains of sand in some of those cogs, and now it's spinning a little bit out of sync. What Tyson Mays are kind of advocating for there is that Jordan Love, at his best, has another gear that can survive offensive line woes. They can survive a muddy pocket and still try to make a play downfield. I'm going to be really curious to see what the Chiefs do from a coverage standpoint, but I don't know if it really matters in terms of my expectations, which is a cool place to be. Because as L'Jarius Sneed has followed number one receivers around, that's been wonderful. But most of the time, it's pretty clear who your number one receiver is going to be. In this case, with it being Christian Watson, and you've got Romeo Doubs, and it's a young group altogether. He's not Justin Jefferson, but you might want to try to keep Trent McDuffie from ending up on the 6'4" guy, just from a vertical matchmaking perspective. But I do kind of think that what the Chiefs need to do in this game is to limit the opportunities to make those aggressive throws that all of a sudden have you look at Jordan Love with a different tint of lens in your glasses. Because I will say that by and large, I am pretty guilty of thinking about Jordan Love as a developmental draft pick whose most notable contributions to the Packers were rustling Aaron Rodgers' feathers and making all that a little harder. I am guilty, I think, of looking at him now as a guy the Packers would love to be proven right about, but not necessarily a guy that I would bet on. And ultimately, it's nice to hear guys like the Athletic Football Show duo there, to hear them talk about the things that make them excited about Jordan Love. Again, though, you can now take that, flip it, and hand the game plan to the Chiefs defense of if he's got some Matthew Stafford traits, what can you do? And I'm seeing Matthew Stafford highlights on TV in front of me right now, and just watching him when he's on is a treat. And Jordan Love is not there at consistency levels and all of that, obviously. But I thought it was a fascinating picture to paint of a quarterback who we have not gotten to see in that type of light, because, again, our lasting memory of Jordan Love around these parts is Steve Spagnuolo putting that man in a blender while his mom watched from 2 planets away. That's not another Mars rep, because Mars would only be 1 planet away. I just want to make sure everyone knows that I know that it's Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. I'm really confident in the first 4. They get big, and the order doesn't matter as much later on the other planets. Dylan, quick, name all the planets in a row. I'm going to make you do it because I want to see if I'm alone here. Don't think of the little acrostic. Just rattle them. Rattle them.
Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn.
That's what I was thinking with Saturn, but I wasn't confident enough to say it.
There's another one before Neptune, right?
There is. There's a big one before Neptune, I think. Big gas bag of a planet. Got a big red spot on that little sucker.
People are screaming.
That's okay. That's okay. We didn't play Sports or Leisure yesterday, so today I'm making us name the planets in order.
I'm about to quit. I don't know. I can't.
Starts with a J.
Jupiter.
There you go.
Okay. Neptune. Uranus.
We were bad.
That's it. Right?
We were bad though.
Uh-oh.
I got unconfident after Mars.
Same.
And then I just kind of started mumbling. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. And then my personal record book, Pluto.
I agree.
It's the world that I was born into.
Same.
I was born into a world where Pluto was a planet. But also at some point I definitely knew the order of all the planets, and just now I had to think about it, and we just tested it out on live radio, and I would have failed. I would not have won $25 at Johnny's Tavern, apparently. But neither would have Dylan. That makes me feel a tiny bit better. And please don't text us about how dumb we are. We know. If you want to complain about the stupidity of us getting Jupiter and Saturn flipped, you can actually just call Dylan's personal cell phone number, which is 913-95. don't want to give away my prediction yet because I think Dylan and I will probably file those away here in a little bit. But I will tell you who I think is going to raise the roof this weekend. How about that? Raising the Roof is brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction, Kansas City's local residential and commercial roofing contractors. One call does it all. And I'm going to say this. We talked about the Chiefs' defense plenty yesterday and how what went wrong early on against the Raiders ended up being stuff that I am just not concerned about. If it was settling in like Justin Reed discussed, or if there were some, there weren't schematic things. It was short, successful runs by Josh Jacobs and a couple of big plays from Devontae Adams. I'm going to go straight back to the Chiefs defense, and I'm going to say that this ends up being a Christopher Jones game. I don't have a specific matchup that I'm hunting there, other than the fact that the Packers have had enough moving parts that I think Chris Jones could be hunting a matchup. I'm not looking at lines. I don't know what his sack prop is or anything like that, but I think we get a Chris Jones game, and the entire Chiefs defense raises the roof around Chris Jones. That's my prediction, and it's brought to you by Shamrock Roofing and Construction. One call does it all. I think we get a Chris Jones house call, not a touchdown, but a meaningful sack at some point on Sunday Night Football when the Chiefs take on the Packers in Lambeau. I'm actually, obviously, we're not going to be at the game. I'm going to be here in this chair watching these screens, and Dylan will be in that chair watching these screens. But I am kind of excited for the Chiefs to go to Lambeau and to have a matchup that does feel like kind of primetime Sunday Night Football. I think it's good that good storyline-wise, it's good that the Packers got that win when people were watching on Thanksgiving over a Lions team that for the first time, or second time if you want to make it last year partially too, but for one of the first times they were kind of a lovable favorite as opposed to a sad underdog. Seeing the Packers be able to make a little bit of noise on Thanksgiving en route to a primetime home game against Patrick Mahomes' sort of struggling Chiefs, although I think maybe that's been a little bit overblown at this point now. I'm excited for this to feel like a legit primetime game in a way that, as frustrating and bizarre as it all is, that I don't think Chiefs Patriots was ever going to feel like, oh, yes, Tom Brady's not there, but it's still flying Elvis on the helmet. It's still the Chiefs Patriots rematch. Obviously no Aaron Rodgers, and we'll see if that game ever happens. But to see this come together in Lambeau, I think it'll be a lot of fun. And we'll give our predictions in a little bit. Plus, we'll talk to Ryan Tracy of RGR Football, Locked On Chiefs, Rogue Analytics, a whole bunch of stuff. We'll talk to him about what he's expecting from Chiefs Packers and what he's learned from the last couple of weeks of Chiefs football, what he saw against the Raiders, and how we figure out how to parse where this offense is. Is it fixed? Is it just taking a new form? Is there more to come? Or have we seen the best, and it's all going to be just trying to keep your head above water from here? Regardless, I don't want to do the thing where we forget about how good the defense is. It was scary early on. It was 14-0. It was going to be 17-0. Probably should have been 21-0. And still, the Chiefs defense stopped the bleeding right there. We'll take our time out, come back and talk about everything going well on either side of the ball with Ryan Tracy. I'm Josh Brisco with Dylan Michaels. No Jason Anderson today. It's just two of us here in the zone. better to talk about it with than Ryan Tracy. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Tracy NFL. You can also check out his work in a whole bunch of places. Locked On Chiefs podcast, RGR Football, plus everything he does leading up to the draft is absolutely unreal. We will talk more about that when the weather warms up a little bit, I think, Ryan. I know that pre-draft season never really ends for you, but if I'm in a hoodie and we're not even to Christmas yet, it's a little early for me to start looking at power rankings at this point for prospects.
Oh, you're going to be fine. You never hurt to sprinkle a little in, Josh.
I mean, look, if you want to tell me that there's like a receiver that perfectly fits all of the Chiefs' metrics and prototypes that they might be able to get in the early 30s, I mean, I'd listen, I guess.
There is. He wears number 2 for the University of Washington.
I've heard a little bit about this fella. You know, we can. All right, I'm in. Okay, I'm ready. I'll go ahead. I'm ready for the draft guide.
It'll be out in 3 days. We'll see what we can get. Yeah, Jalen Paul Chromadoons, they're going to get a lot of attention. There'll be a lot of connections to Casey.
I'm excited to talk to you about that once the season has wrapped up. But in the meantime, I know you were on with us a little bit ago and got to talk to Jason about a bunch. I am curious now with this sort of recent change in how the offense looked against the Raiders. Before we get granular into what we saw there, has your zoomed out view of the Chiefs offense changed a little bit? Is there anything that you feel like you kind of settled in? Any core facts you really do believe strongly now about this Chiefs offense?
You don't want to know the facts that I have seen reinforced because you've heard them all before. You need to run the ball a little bit, Josh. Yeah. I know it hurts you, but you need to do it. Isaiah Pacheco is, I think, underneath the hood, the guy that keeps everything running in this particular version of the read offense on time. And you got to make sure that you feed that. It doesn't have to be, 3 heaping servings at Thanksgiving, but it needs to be a nice, steady diet of meat and potatoes from Isaiah Pacheco. And I think that helps everything else. The evolution that we're seeing in the passing game, that needs to be supported with the run. And I think as long as they keep that in sight, they're going to be all right.
I'm just gonna pick a different side dish, a different category of food, and then all of a sudden, I think we're gonna be on pretty even footing here. You got to eat your vegetables. That you want to keep everything moving, so to speak. You can't skip over. You can't be Al Michaels. You can't skip over every green thing, and even I understand that. So, and look, the Chiefs did me a favor by drafting a running back as fun to watch as Isaiah Pacheco. I have more fun watching him lose 11 yards than I have watching most running backs gain 4 or 5. Like I am enamored with him, so that does not hurt me at all.
Good. And hopefully it won't hurt anybody else because it's got to be a staple. And I think what we've seen them dive on that is when we've seen them get in a little bit of trouble. Yes, there are things you need to sort out on the pass catcher side, but having that as your staple, I think, is what's going to stabilize them here through the end of the regular season and allow them to kind of springboard into the postseason.
This might be like taking a step back into some like 101 territory, but when you do talk about like an offense staying on time, and specifically the Chiefs' offense that way, can you zoom us back a smidge and kind of give us an example of what that looks like when it's going well and what happens when the timing is thrown off?
It really just, in terms of the overall offense and the balance and what you do on first down, keeping you on time, is just keeping things easy, making your life simple, getting yourself in 2nd and 6, 2nd and 4, getting yourself in 3rd and 2, not 3rd and 18, as we've seen some of the penalty structure go on this season. That's keeping the offense on time, and that keeps you rolling, and I think allows you to pick up not only momentum for what Patrick has to do in dealing the ball a little bit quicker. We know he's holding the ball longer this season, but I think when this offense looks the best, it's when the timing per play is on track and is quicker. And then that keeps the offense on track as a whole and on time as a whole. And so it's all about, I think, execution in what is fundamental time. Unfortunately, a lot of other offenses are based on that as well. This is a little bit of a return to the norm and not being such of an outlier offense we've seen in years past. But it is definitely, for this group, what works.
What is it that you think necessitated that for the Chiefs this year? I'm guessing there are a couple of pretty slam dunk answers, but why was that evolution a part of the plan? Or why did it need to become one?
Yeah, that's a good question, whether it was there originally or not. There's 2 main factors. I think there was a little bit of an overestimation about some of the skill players and their success in the secondary, having so many young players come along so quickly. They tried to port that over to the pass catcher positions, and I think that didn't quite work out the way that they expected. A little bit slower of a evolution there, and that's okay. But I think also what they were trying to get out of the offensive tackle position isn't quite what they had expected. Obviously, the penalties have been a big story this year, but just the overall performance is not what they'd hoped. And what you're trying to do is give Patrick a solid pocket to throw from. Yes, he's holding the ball longer, but he's still getting guys in his face when he's trying to deliver the ball. So, yes, the length of the play is longer, but the actual delivery point that it leaves his hand looks very similar to what it's looked like in years past. So that fix, I don't think, has come to fruition yet. Maybe it still can, but it's going to take a little bit more tweaking.
As I continue to just try to beat some of the allegations that I hate running the football and offensive linemen, I want to build a new reputation that does not include that. This will be the third time today I've asked about the offensive line. I asked Matt Derrick about it a little bit. We talked to Kendall Gammon about it a little bit, and specifically how good Patrick Mahomes is at not letting pressures almost ever turn into sacks, and certainly at a clip that is like historic. But dig in a little bit on what you've seen from the offensive line, because it is harder for me to confidently evaluate, in part because of what Mahomes does with the ball in his hand, and in part because of how the Chiefs' running game does typically function. Where has the offensive line met expectations? Where have they missed them? And is there anywhere that they have overachieved in your eyes?
It's a great question. And I think overall, as a unit, I think they're on track for what we had expected to see. Obviously, a little bit different flavor for both tackles. I think getting off to such an interesting start for Taylor in particular kind of threw off the progress. I think they're getting more scrutiny from the rest. I think there's probably a handful of penalties that have been called that on a normal year, without that couple of spotlight weeks early, maybe it might not be called at all. Because the old adage is still true. There's holding on every play, on nearly every player in that trench. It's just how adamant and how much scrutiny you're getting on whether they get called with this much repetition. So I think overall they're probably performing how we wanted. I think there was probably more hope for Donovan Smith in his pass sets to make more of a recovery towards 2021. He's certainly functional, but I don't think it's exactly where they had hoped to get him, so you could call that underachievement a bit. I think what you've seen from the interior three has been pretty on par. A little bit more improvement, I think, in the run game in general, and in particular trying to get off the ball in the shorter yardage. And I don't mean the 3rd and 1s, but 3rd and 3s, 3rd and 4s, things that they're trying to get some, I think, repetitions in so later in the season those 3rd and 1s look better and are more achievable. But I think overall, it's been pretty steady and not out of the realm of expectation to begin with. What I'm hoping for is that with the penalty structure and everything else, as they go along here through the next 3-4 games, that quote-unquote gel time that we always talk about in camp and in the early season really starts to pay off as they approach the postseason. And it seems like that's a long time, right?
Yeah.
But it should be coming.
Specifically in the run blocking, has there been anything that they've tinkered with schematically that has caught your eye in terms of any of the blocking schemes, or is it just a matter of they've spent a little more time doing it now, and so we're getting to see them put the ball on the ground a little more often?
Honestly, the thing that I'm hoping that they just double down on and just run some more basic double-team concepts like duo doesn't seem to be in the cards. Yeah. I feel like Creed's playing with a little bit lower pad level, a little bit better leverage. I think Joe Tooney is probably utilizing his feet a little bit better than we've seen in the past. It's one of his strongest points, and I think he might have gotten away from that a little bit last year. But now it's becoming more of, hey, we can't get by throwing 40 passes a game. We're going to have to move the ball on the ground. So for me, what it looks like is just effort and dominance and looking to not lose this particular snap, where I don't know that the emphasis was there before. And so I'd love to know if it were practice reps. I don't know that that's the case, but it looks like more determination from this unit as a whole for me. And that might even roll down to, say, Wani Morris coming in for 5 snaps and looking as though that we've missed some progress while he's not been in the starting lineup. And I think that's encouraging as well. And that comes back to that same attitude of, I'm going to get my chance, I'm going to do the most with it. And I think it's a little bit more determination across the board.
Then before we get to the offense, I will go ahead and let us spend a little time on the big story. And I think the fun story, because of how the Raiders game went, we have spent a lot of time talking about the Chiefs wide receivers, but we saw them run that offense by and large through Rashee Rice in a big way against Vegas, and a lot of different stuff they asked him to do, specifically about what Rice was able to accomplish and the variety of things that he was able to do in that game. What impressed you the most, and how sustainable do you think that's going to be?
I do think it will be sustainable. I think there'll still be a concentration drop from time to time.
Yeah.
That's the nature of being a rookie in this league. And as much as you think that that's been cleaned up, and I hope that it has, there'll still be one or two. But in particular, attacking the edges and being outside the numbers, I think that's the big thing for me that I've wanted to see more of. Sitting down the middle of his zone, we've seen him do that, and I think that's efficient, and I think it shows his progress over some of the other younger receivers. Mm-hmm. But I think that's where you have to make your money. Because if you try to pack too many pass catchers, or in this case, the one guy that you really want to feed next to Travis Kelce on pass concepts that are going to put them in closer proximity rather than attacking the sideline, I think you're not helping yourself as much as you possibly can. So what I'd like to see them double down on is the outbreaking routes, the things that get him a little bit more in isolation on the side and let Patrick use his arm in hopefully a more timing-based role. Get him the ball and get it into his hands. I love what he does after contact, and I think that's probably the thing I'm most excited about. I don't want to compare him to past Chiefs receivers, but when he has that ball and there is a defender bearing down on him, I feel more confident about where he is than most years past, including Juju Smith-Schuster and a number of other guys that have been good in that role, that strength possession-type reception. And then he's got the ability to turn it up. He really is an all-around receiver that I think is just showing us a small glimpse of what his capability is truly going to be.
We talked about him certainly right after the draft, and I think we probably talked about him a little bit before the draft at some point, just kind of going through the receivers and everything. Is there anything that you have seen from him as a pro and at this point in the season that you didn't see from him in college? Or is it just that some of the stuff he was doing in college, Matt Nagy said yesterday, they weren't ready to trust any rookie early in the year on 3rd and 8 or whatever, and maybe it's by necessity, maybe it's by choice, but we're here now. Has he shown you other stuff, or is it just that we are seeing a bunch of that translate from college?
I think what he has shown me is I didn't see a ton of the zone awareness type things. They've also spoken about how they're getting a lot of strange zone looks, things that they don't expect. And so it is very much a post-snap read and react skill set that I didn't see in college. He ran dedicated routes. They tried to get him the ball to a spot where they felt would be advantage for him, not that kind of rolling, I'm going to adapt to what I'm seeing live on the go and hope that Patrick gets to the same spot. And the whole concept of being Patrick friendly is not that you're creating gross amounts of separation. It's not that you're in a dedicated spot all the time. It's that you're reading and seeing what he sees and adapting to it the same way. And I think that has been maybe a slower progression than we wanted to see, but that seems like the pace that they're getting on. So I'd like to see that. But there are other staples too. College games where you did put it up, outside shoulder throws along the sideline again, where you feel that he has the confidence and the ability to go get the ball and win a battle against the DB. I don't think we've seen much of that makes me feel like they're going to emphasize it, but I do think it's there, and I think it's a skill set that can still be developed and utilized.
What have you learned this year? Or talking to Ryan Tracy here. You can follow him on Twitter, Ryan Tracy NFL. It's also where he has all the links to all the billion things he does. RGR Football on YouTube. If you're not following that as a Chiefs fan, you're wasting your time. So rgrfootball.com. You can get it all there and follow him on Twitter at Ryan Tracy NFL. What have you learned this year, if anything, about how the Chiefs value and evaluate wide receivers? Because you mentioned that there with Rashee Rice, that we're not necessarily expecting them to use that part of his game more, because I don't expect the Chiefs to ever use that part of anybody's game more, even though it's something that we've seen Rice do. Is there a lesson to be learned in terms of the types of receivers that they value, or is this more about a guy like specifically Sky Moore or MVS either underdeveloping or regressing? Or again, is there a bigger lesson to learn?
I think it's not necessarily a bigger lesson, but I think we're starting to see other aspects of how they go about those evaluations and what they are looking for. And part of it's still what we've talked about in the past, in that you want to be able to have a guy that can play all three positions, that can learn how to attack the defense from those three positions, but also about varying the skill set. even less so about pigeonholing someone into what their role is in college or what you think the type tells you about them. I think it really is about the adaptability, and that doesn't mean that Sky Moore isn't adapting well. It just means that Rashee Rice, because of his skill set, I think has been able to adapt to what they're getting now. If Sky Moore was seeing 90% man coverage, I think his adaptation would have gone in a different direction. He might be more productive now. It's just the combination of where they are in their evolution as each individual player versus what they're seeing down to down. So the lesson for me is that they're still trying to hit on guys that they see an aspect of their game they can build around and then diversify and make them a versatile three-position wide receiver after that. And I think there are some times where that versatility overtakes maybe what their best trait is, and maybe that isn't hammered enough, isn't used as the axe that they need to use it while developing the other skill sets. And that may be something that comes to a head when you're not able to move the ball through the air as much as you want to. And you are going to have to go back to basics and go back to the skill sets that define the player as you're evaluating them. I think we've seen that a little bit with Rice and his progression. And I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to play out for guys like Kadarius Toney, who has been used so sparingly until one game when he gets all kinds of contact, and then there's another injury issue, and you're just trying to play that game of keeping him intact, allowing him to do what he does. And I think there's still something where you just have to double down and go back to what he is best at, in making guys miss, getting the ball in his hands early, and attacking the defense horizontally with him while others have to be a little bit more vertical.
Last big picture thing before we look to the Packers. Who's the second best receiver on this team right now, and who would you back for the rest of the year to say, oh, we're gonna see something from somebody who's not named Rashee Rice or Travis Kelce? I imagine. If you wanted to expand it to all pass catchers, I guess that's fine. But specifically amongst the wide receivers, we're back in Rashee Rice. Who gives you the most hope next?
You know, I wish I could tell you I could flip a coin, but I would probably need a dice for this.
Yeah. You would. 6 sides would do it, I
You
think.
need more options.
Yeah.
Yeah, knock on wood. You know, my gut always says that what you show on the field is what you're going to get. And there are times we've had problems with Watson drops. But until this last ball game, you can just see how much the offense and Patrick Mahomes trust him, and I think that will probably come back around. I think there'll be some big plays from him. But the question for me always comes back to, is Toney healthy, and can they use him enough to feed him? And I don't mean that it's got to be, 12 targets per game, but it's got to be more than just a couple of gadget plays and a slant. It's got to be a good 5, 6, 8 targets on plays that he can actually have a chance at not just trying to make 7 guys miss, but make a move and go and be able to have some space to work in. If that happens, then I would put my money on Toney.
That I didn't even expect you to go to Toney, just because I until you mentioned his name a second ago, I kind of forgot that he existed because I was so hurt by him being a late scratch last weekend. And what I would not give for Kadarius Toney to just be able to turn up his stamina or turn his injury slider down or whatever. Man, he is electric. He is so much fun to watch with the ball in his hands.
He certainly is, and he's the guy that has that potential. If we're saying, hey, who can stand out here down the stretch, Justin Watson isn't going to raise his game much other than taking away the drops, right?
Yep.
He is pretty much a finished product. Same thing with MVS. I think Sky's actually played really hard, especially when he gets the ball and he's been taking on tackles. I think he's been playing very tough. But I don't know if there's something instantly here between now and the end of the regular season, or maybe even the first couple of rounds of the playoffs, that he can do to elevate his game given the role that he's in now. So it really comes down to just kind of an A-B option. And Toney's the guy that they've been trying to protect from injury and they've been trying to have in reserve. And so I feel like that plan's going to play out to fruition. It's going to be whether when Andy pulls the trigger on him, can he survive contact? That's, I think, the only limitation.
It's a heck of a limitation in a very physical sport, but I think you're right. I think it's the only one. God, that's what a catch-22. Let's look ahead to Green Bay Sunday Night Football in Lambeau. What have you seen from the Packers as of late, and where does your evaluation of Jordan Love end up?
It's been a bit of a spark. I think what I've been happy with what I've seen from Love lately is that he's being more, I think, situationally aware in making sure you get the first down. He's been better on third down lately. I think I can't speak to the leadership aspect, but it feels like the offense responds to him a little bit more than previous weeks. This is going to be a test. Last I checked, it's going to be upper 20s, low 30s, right about the freezing point. There should be some snow. I'll be able to tell you that on Sunday night because I'll be there. So
I didn't know you were going. I'm sorry. I buried the lead.
No. Hey, it's one of those bucket list games for me. I've never seen a game live in that stadium. So
that's awesome.
We're going to try that out. And hopefully, if the Chiefs are not able to pull it out, you all can blame me. That's fine.
That's fine, yeah.
But in the meantime, I think it's going to be an interesting challenge. The bigger thing for me is their defensive front, I think, is underrated. And I think for all the things that we've watched this season about trying to get the Chiefs offense going, they have to be cognizant and aware of what Kenny Clark is. And honestly, Carl has been playing better as well. It's not just Rashawn Gary, who had a big breakout, maybe not even a breakout game, but a highlight game, that is really going to, I think, be the talk this week between him and Donovan Smith on the left-hand side of the offense. But I think there's more to it than that. And so if there's any kind of weather-related breaks put on the offense, and then their defensive front is able to get to Patrick a little bit, you're going to see a team in the Chiefs' offensive side that has to kind of double down and restart again. And I think once they get outside the first 15 plays, we're really going to get an idea of what can they do on this particular night in this particular stadium. That's what I really want to see. I'm confident in the defense. I think it's going to be a big night for a couple of guys, and in particular, I'm really interested to see just where Trent McDuffie takes his game now. We haven't seen the interceptions, but we've seen the forced fumbles. This is going to be a game. The ball's going to be wet. There's going to be snow on the ground at least at some point. What can he do to raise his game? There's a couple of receivers there. Their third guy who lined up in the slot a lot in Reed, I think will be an interesting matchup if he can go. If not, I think the blitz package is all over the place, and Steve Spagnuolo is going to run Trent McDuffie ragged chasing the quarterback.
Oh, it'll be a blast. I'm glad you're going to get to see it in person. Do you have a score prediction ready to go?
You know, I'm confident that it's going to be a little bit more of a game early than any of us would like to see, but in the end, I have the Chiefs winning this 28-17.
28-17 Chiefs, and you'll be there to preside over it all in Lambeau. Man, enjoy that. That's going to be a blast, and I look forward to talking again soon about how hopefully you're not the Chiefs' bad luck charm.
Well, let's keep it that way, knock on wood.
Let's do it. All right, we'll talk about the draft next time.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
It's Ryan Tracy. Seriously, an incredible resource for Chiefs fans everywhere and anywhere. You can just go to rgrfootball.com. It'll take you to the YouTube page, but you've got RGR Football on YouTube. You've got Locked On Chiefs. Everything else that he does. The draft guide is spectacular. The Athletic Matrix, again, following him on Twitter at Ryan Tracy NFL. Also a good way to see everything he's doing there. Just tremendous work across the board from Ryan Tracy. We'll take a break ourselves. We'll come back and hear from Andy Reid, maybe hear from Travis Kelce, and begin to get you to 2 o'clock when the program takes over. But right now, it's still the Zone. No Jason Anderson today, but it's me, Joshua Brisco, alongside Dylan Michaels. More Zone next. We got some moving parts here as we get you to Arrowhead, hear from the Chiefs, get you set up on a Red Friday. I know I'm wearing almost entirely gray today. Dylan and I brought a very black, white, and gray energy. Dylan's outfit, but this is really just for the Twitch. I got a Charlie Hustle hoodie I'm really a big fan of. Dylan, put the camera on yourself again. Dylan's wearing the absolute sickest Guinness hoodie I've ever seen. It's like if Chris Hemsworth's hoodie in Knives Out was sponsored by Guinness. It's not actually the same style, but it's a white sweater. Is this from Ireland by chance, Dylan, or is this what's the origin?
It is from the streets of Dublin, actually.
Dude, it's even. I gotta tell Sterling because he also understands how sick this sweater is, and he needs to know that it's actually even cooler. That's awesome. Well, I got my Charlie Hustle KC Heart tie-dye hoodie here in Kansas City, so I mean, we're both representing where we got the thing from.
100%.
But that sweater is absolutely sick. So we may hear from Travis Kelce before the show's over. It sounds like his availability is a TBD floating time. But Andy Reid did speak to the media just a little bit ago, and we can hear from the Chiefs head coach in a real Fast Friday.
Today, look forward to the challenge of playing the Packers. Good football team, both sides of the ball and special teams. So our guys have had a good week of practice and look forward to the challenge of playing them. So that time's yours.
So you're expecting everybody to be available Sunday, McKinnon, Tony?
Yeah. Right now, yep.
Does that include Nick Bolton, or are you going to wait?
No, probably wait on Nick.
Boy Doe did some good things in training camp, and you promoted him this week. What have you seen from him since?
Yeah, he has done a good job. He's obviously fast, which we knew, and he's worked on his technique and fundamentals. He has a pretty good grasp of the defense. So that was why we did that.
Another thing that happened, I think, since we talked to you, they flexed your game in a couple of weeks back to the Sunday. That's down the road a ways, but that'll just be some schedule adjusting for you guys to play a little bit sooner. Is it just is what it is in today's league, right? That you can have somebody move back.
Yeah, you got to keep your flexibility. Up there. We're good. Whatever they decide, we're good. I know they've decided, but I mean, whatever's decided, we go with.
A little off the wall when you told us the other day about the Doc T talking to the guys about sleep and all that stuff. I mean, you work really hard and grind, and you take those things to heart when he's telling those guys about rest and all that stuff. And has that maybe changed for you over the years?
I probably failed that test. But I'm good with it, though. I've been that way since I was a kid. So.
Be good?
All
right, guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's a fun question there from Lebo of talking about the sleep science and everything. And yeah, Andy Reid's definitely not sleeping enough, but he's a pretty old fella who at this point, pretty old dog perhaps, who may not learn any new tricks about sleeping. Apparently he's just not slept very much since he was a kid. That's an interesting little nugget there. And as you heard at the top, everybody expected to be able to be available, including Jerick McKinnon. But Nick Bolton is not fully on the active roster. He was brought off IR in his, not off IR, I should correct that now. His 21-day practice window was opened, and so he can be at practice and will get designations at practice, but does not actually take up an active roster spot. It's just a warm-up, ramp-up period to bring a guy from the short-term IR onto the active roster. So sounds like there's a pretty good chance that he's back for the Bills perhaps on December 10th, or right after with the Patriots now on Sunday. Also, just another little wrinkle within all of that. It is a day earlier to face the Patriots, which you'll do after playing the Bills at home, but it's an extra day to get back on schedule before facing off with the Raiders on Monday on Christmas. A road game and a night game in New England. You're getting back in the early hours of Tuesday morning and then having to shorten up your entire week there, getting ready for Vegas again on Christmas. So we'll see where that ends up. Curious to see if... Here's the thing. We got the cuts, which we're going to do, and we may hear from Travis Kelce. And it sounds like maybe it makes sense to take a quick break now, come back and see if we're going to hear from Travis Kelce. And if not, we'll just send you into the weekend with some fun and the cuts. Let's go ahead and do that now. Take an early timeout, this segment of The Zone. When we come back, it'll either be funny or Travis Kelce, or hopefully a little bit of both.
Packers, it's a big time home field advantage for their fan base because how much they show up every single home game. So it's so times that I played there, it's been a crazy atmosphere, and I'm excited for this one.
You guys got some things going in the second half, especially scoring some points offensively. I know it had been a rough stretch before. What was working for you guys against the Raiders?
Well, penalties and turnovers have always kind of been what we've been preaching in terms of how we fix our second half stuff. And sure enough, you saw us flying downfield, kind of penalty free and turnover free, and found a way to get the ball in the end zone, man.
Travis, just beyond that, how would you just assess where the offense is right now?
Slowly inclining, getting better, man, every single day. You can see it out on the field. You can see how everybody's more in tune with the offense and kind of feels their role being developed and kind of rising to the occasion when you get asked to do more.
What's the balance of, I mean, obviously you guys have lofty goals where you've been the past several years, but what's the balance of a team with those sort of goals, having young players that you do have to have, what you just mentioned, that patience waiting on us?
I mean, at this point, there's no patience. Everybody's kind of on the same page that we got to get this thing rolling now. And you felt that last week during the game, and sure enough, you felt it this week during practices and even today. And everybody knows that this thing is we understand what it can be, and I think that's the excitement we're able to bring every single day.
The last two games, they put you more in the backfield, sometimes as a lead blocker. I just wonder if that was a suggestion you maybe had before the bye week, or just what that sort of adjustment does for the rest of the
Whatever
offense.
the team needs, man. I'm as much as Coach Reed needs me anywhere on the field, mixed into the run game, pass game. I'm here for that.
Yeah. And you played almost every snap against the Eagles. They sort of trended you down a little bit against the Raiders, just because it is your 11th year. You're playing through some injuries. Just how much have you tried to manage your own snap count during the game versus the competitiveness to always want to be out there?
The only time I'm ever coming off the field, like me personally coming off the field, is if I feel like I'm just too exhausted, or I've just had so many plays in a row, or I've just had a big play where I had a big hit or something. Those are the only times you'll see me come off the field. Outside of that, it's all just whatever the game plan is, and I'm always on board with that. However, whoever is out there on the field, obviously I want to be out there helping my teammates out, but I'm not looking at my snap count on how many plays I'm playing per game or anything like that.
Andy used a term on Monday on the Zoom to talk about Rashid had a really nice game. He's more Patrick friendly. Running his routes and doing things. What does it mean to be Patrick friendly to you? And when did that how long did it take for you guys to get there?
I mean, it's the thing about being in this offense. It's nonstop. Just it's always growing. And with that being said, there's routes that I've ran early on with Pat that can kind of give reference to some young guys or give reference to what we're running nowadays. And you over time, you just find what's unique about this offense that can make it run that much more efficient. And, with the reps that you get, you just keep, kind of computing that data, man.
Trav, you caught a pass in every game that you played except the very first one.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you played one snap on special teams, I guess. What do you remember about that? What special team were you on?
What I remember is it was a blocked field goal, and I was supposed to be on the side that it was blocked from. Yeah, my guy Sean McGrath, man. Sorry, Sean, wherever you're at, brother. I put him in a hot spot. The left wing went down. I was supposed to go into the left side, and sure enough, I looked over and was like, "Hey, my left knee isn't too strong right now. You're trying to take this side. I know they're coming from that side," and it was a block. But that's all I can really remember from that game. I thought it was against the Cowboys, but I guess it was against the Giants. So I don't even know.
Travis, what's the ceiling for Rashid? What kind of player do you feel like he can realistically be?
Man, he could be a number one on this team. He could be a number one in the league. I think he's got all the talent that you need in that receiver room, man. He could play inside, he could play outside. Strong with the ball, can do things with the ball in his hands once you get it to him. Meaning that you can run routes with him, or you can just get the ball in his hands right now and he can do some things. And that's why it's so fun playing with him, because his role is getting bigger and bigger every single week, and it's exciting to see him rise to the occasion.
Todd was talking about the Patrick friendly phrase. What advice do you give to him? What do you tell him as far as how to make himself more Patrick friendly?
just keep growing. He's got a great feel for the game, and the thing about being Patrick Friendly is he's going to let you know when you're doing the right things. That's the ultimate leader he is, and just who he is as a quarterback. And he's going to come up to you and talk to you about where he kind of likes you to fit in voids, or how he sees things kind of developing versus certain coverages. And as long as you're a sponge, you just absorb everything, not only from him but from Coach Reed and how he teaches the offense all across the board, like he's been doing. You're going to keep seeing him excel and get more stuff thrown on his plate.
Nate?
Chuck, anything you notice differently or sort of adding to his game more for Isaiah Pacheco going from year 1 to year 2?
I mean, right now it's we go as he goes, man. He's playing unbelievable football with a lot of energy and making everybody love blocking for him, man. And that's Clyde was in there last week doing the same thing, running downhill. And Jarek obviously always a fan favorite and always a teammate favorite. Love blocking for that guy. So it's just, whoever's back there, we're rolling, but the offensive line has got a great mentality going into the games. We've got a great run game going this week, so I expect Isaiah to keep doing what he's doing.
Okay, thanks, Travis.
Have a good one, guys.
There you have it, Travis Kelce here live on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And some interesting stuff in there about a lot of things, actually, from Rashee Rice to Isaiah Pacheco to him realizing he said too many nice things about Isaiah Pacheco and also needed to say nice things about Clyde and Jerick McKinnon. Speaking of Jerick McKinnon, the Chiefs' injury officially, their injury report officially out for Sunday Night Football. Jerick McKinnon officially questionable for Sunday Night Football. Andy Reid said he should be good to go. Nick Bolton officially out, as Andy Reid indicated. Again, he's not actually off the IR yet, just has his practice window opened. And Packers coach Matt LaFleur told reporters today that Aaron Jones, with his knee sprain, will not play again this week. Has not practiced since his injury. So another running back in the 1-2 punch there for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Jones will not be on the field on Sunday Night Football. We still got a few minutes to enjoy some of the cuts, and Jason's not here, and we've got a pretty big archive. So Dylan, I say we start with some of the old ones, because there are some oldies but goodies that have not yet made the cut to cuts. I know they start off with a bang. What?
And they'll play that at my funeral, and you'll be standing over me, and you'll look next to my crying children, and you say, "You know what? I don't really like this song."
Do you think? Why do you think I'm going to outlive you?
Oh, let me give you a list of reasons. Are you going to kidding me? Let me write a book. It'd be the length of Moby Dick. Let's hear from. Get me off the air.
This was like October, right? Like early October?
September 25th.
September! Fantastic. I think there's a part 2.
I wasn't driving. The Cooch was driving.
You and the Cooch?
The Cooch and his lovely wife, Mrs. Cooch.
Miss Cooch? Hello, Miss Cooch.
And then
that was pretty late in the show. I don't think Lebo or Steven had slept very much. I can't remember the circumstances.
I think it was a late night, primetime Sunday night game.
And that's how you get to writing a book as long as Moby Dick. What?
Jeez.
Was that Isaiah Pacheco?
Yeah, that's it.
That's been in that folder for so long.
And grab it, but he didn't pull or jerk it one way, so therefore the pulling motion and the jerking motion took place.
That's good to know, Jason. Thank you. I don't think I've licked any of the railings here. Several of the microphones just by accident. I mean, we talk into them all the time.
Why we wear a little cap thing.
You pop your plosives, and all of a sudden, you and Nate Bukaty may have shared some spit. What? Nothing wrong with that. Not ashamed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll take the blame first before he's greedy. I mean, he's not. Absolutely, yeah. For you, anything.
For you, anything, Seren.
Anything.
Seren Petra on the program coming up in a couple of minutes, and Andy Reid would do anything for that show.
I think anyone that has my phone number knows better than call me about something like that.
This is a ringtone we should all have.
And a souped up tempo. I'm on a roll. All right, Josh, get out of here. It's time to go solo.
Hey, rolling. 5.0. The rack top down so my hair can't blow. Girlie's on standby waiting to say hi.
Yeah, we're going to erase all that, Josh. Don't you worry. No, that's going to be erased. Don't worry. That'll be erased.
Sometimes you have to record things. Sometimes Jason starts rapping, and sometimes those things get saved. Thank you, Jason.
This is appropriate material for X.
You're saying that's an X video?
Me pulling on the teats of the cow is definitely.
This is the agony of the teat.
But see, I think this is just obviously city boy versus farm boy here in our growing up, because that is your milking symbol is and yours is more the udders, with the cow.
It's just a special day of radio that day. Just a good Friday.
He's already just turned 34. Do you feel like with Travis that things are just a little tougher for him now?
Well, I haven't seen that. I mean, he goes out and he cranks every day. So, I mean.
I'm just delighted to find some of these because these have gotten lost. I remember marking them.
I don't remember that one hit that one again. Just play that one again if you can. Or if you need to go play another one and come back to that.
He's already just turned 34. Do you feel like with Travis that things are just a little tougher for him now?
Well, I haven't seen that. I mean, he goes out and he cranks every day. So, I mean.
Goat.
He's a busy guy.
Greatest of all time right there. I'm a tuna eyeball eater.
See, you like tuna eyeballs. I'm okay. Here's some deep fried tarantula.
Yummy. I'll eat it. Yeah, I'll eat anything. That's fine. Not a lot, but I'll try it. Only Dylan let down the hoodie memo today. We were all so excited.
And I wore pants, so,
You idiot.
I could take my pants off.
I wish you would. I was going to offer to take my pants off, so then we at least, total have one full pair of pants.
I kind of feel like we should just put pants on. Oh, Marco came running down the hallway just to see.
No, do not take the pants
off. That's not what Marco said. A beautiful cut to rediscover on Marco's final day. Give us one more on the way out, Dylan.
Jason's already on record saying it's overblown. So that they're doing too much. Right. It's way too much, and they need to dial it back. So with Jason already saying that, I don't think Jason wants Taylor Swift at the Eagles-Chiefs game on that Monday night.
Weird time to go third person.
Brian Flores is a hammer, and there's a lot of benefit to that. If you're out there pounding screws, it's not going to really work out for you.
I can't think of a better way to end what has been an odd week here in the zone. Nick Bolton's a scrub that shouldn't get a contract extension. Oh, God, that's going to get cut. No! We were so close to a perfect end to this show! That's not what I meant! It's like you cut that and then took it out of context. Hey, wait a second. Is that the whole bit? Hey, we'll hope to have Jason back on Monday. Thanks to Dylan Michaels. I'm Joshua Brisco. Till next time. Bye, Mom!